Welcome to tonight's January 21st, 2026 Dover Conservation Commission hearing, starting at 7:30. It appears we have a quorum. I'm going to start off with a call to order and a roll call vote. Please respond when I call your name. Zega,
Here.
Tim,
Here.
Anna.
Here. Though I have to drop for 15 minutes at 8.
Okay, thanks for the heads up. Sarah.
Hi, here.
Okay, I don't see Amy. I don't hear her either. Do we know if Amy's going to be with us?
She indicated she would be here.
Okay.
Yep. Oh,
Oh,
there
and
she
there
is.
she is. Okay. Hi, Amy. We're just doing the last bit of our roll call. So, Amy Moot,
Here.
thank you. And I'm John Sullivan. I also am here. Amazing. Um, Prior to our starting our public hearings, we request that if there's anybody on the Zoom meeting who is not on tonight's agenda but has something that they would like to bring to our attention or have a question, please let us know. And hearing no one, we'll proceed. First off, we're going to start with a request for a certificate of compliance for Lot 5, Piggin Lane. And Janet, why don't you fill us in?
Sure. So this order of conditions, you might recall, was issued a little over a year ago on a vacant, undeveloped lot. But it had previously been used for agricultural purposes, so a lot of it was cleared. And at the time, the owner indicated there was no intent to develop the lot, but they just wanted to lay out a driveway, so that the adjoining lot owners would understand if it were to be developed, where the driveway access would be. So no work has been done on the site. The lot is being transferred. And so we're here tonight for a certificate of compliance request. I have been out to the site. I confirmed no work was done. We received the required as-built by a PE and the certification letter. So all the paperwork is in order. So I'd recommend approval of the COC. But I am curious as to if there is an intent at this point to develop the lot. So I'm hoping one of the representatives could address that. Also, the prospective buyers had to, I think the sellers or the buyers, the closing had to be postponed because we had a quorum issue for our 14th meeting. So we are hoping that we can get the required number of commissioners to come into the office tomorrow morning and sign the COC. But why don't you go ahead and vote on the COC, and then we can deal with the logistics. I also want to remind the current owners that the new owners do need to include in their new deed the language that was outlined in my report. That is a requirement in the order of conditions. It's a standard requirement. Anytime there's a transfer on a property that had a permit, we require that that permit, that order of conditions be acknowledged in the deed.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
had anybody representing the current owners, had they had a chance to review that wording and on the regulatory report that was sent out by Janet?
yes, my name's Paul Branley. I'm along with my wife, the owner of the property.
Mhm.
And we just got a copy of that wording earlier today, and we're really surprised by it. And so just having a couple hours to look at it and think about it. I have a couple of questions, comments, and I'm sorry, this is completely new to me. My wife and I bought the property thinking we were going to build a nice, modest, for Dover anyways, very modest house. and realized it was going to take too much time and effort to do it. So after 7 months of working with architects, we gave up and decided to sell the property. And now as we're trying to sell the land and think we have a deal that could close over the next couple of days, there's some conditions being put into the deed potentially. So given that my quick reading of the wording, given that any future owner would be restricted, have to comply to any wetland regulations for any work, what additional protection is added to the wetlands by adding this into the deed? My reading of it basically says that it adds in there you have to follow the law. But it does appear to a buyer that we're adding restrictions that weren't on the land before. And there weren't restrictions on the deed as I bought the land. It was a clean deed. So 9 months later, now I have restrictions put into the deed. I knew it if I was building that I'd have to follow these rules, but I had a clean deed, and now I'm about to sell the land, and I have restrictions added in. So I don't understand this process a little bit, but I appreciate you giving me the time to explain some of my thoughts.
So, well, thanks for the question, Paul. So, Janet, was the approval for the driveway, was that all recorded prior to Mr. Brannely and his family buying the land? Was it, was it approved before the most recent sale?
Yeah, the order of conditions was issued in October of 2024 to Mr. Malm, who held the property in a trust.
Okay. And
I
was
believe
this
that was
this
before
required in was this verbiage required in the deed out from that?
um, the requirement of the deed restriction was in the order of conditions, and it indicates that the required language would be subject to the commission's review. And the language included in my report is our standard deed language.
But what I'm trying to get to was this wording supposed to have been as part of the notice of intent approval? Was this supposed to have been in the deed that went out to the Brandleys?
No, because, well, this went to Mr. Malm as the trustee of an LLC, and at the
Yeah.
time the land was not being transferred. So there
Mm-hmm.
was no requirement for a change in the existing deed. What
I see.
triggers the change is when the land is transferred, and that
Mm-hmm.
is in the order of conditions.
So is this wording in that order of conditions?
No, the wording, our standard wording is that a deed restriction is required with language provided by the commission.
But we did not provide them with that at that time.
That's right, because there was no transfer. It
Mhm.
wasn't required.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in the future, because I thought we'd had with the orders of conditions, I thought we required this to be added to people's land, even if they weren't transferring the property. Haven't we done that before?
No, the order of condition language, which was what has been in existence for, I don't know, maybe 15 years before, even before I started, simply says when there is a successor of ownership. So
And
that's
so when it says when there is successor, but it does not outline the wording. It says that they should come to us for the wording.
That's right. And so I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, uh, I worked with the commission and you approved very specific language.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done is when there is a known transfer, then I send out this language tailored to the particular property.
Mm-hmm. So the question I have, I think, which might be in line with Mr. Brandley, which is that if we're issuing a certificate of completion based on the checkbox that says no work was started on that, uh, does that still require this?
Um, in my opinion, it would. It still would be triggered because there's a transfer of ownership regardless of the status of the project. I
So
think
you
that
don't,
was I think the intent behind this was simply to give a new owner a heads up and information,
mhm.
because oftentimes the closing attorney or whoever really does not dig into the order of conditions to understand all the requirements. So this is something that's on a deed and is clearly, you know, gives a new owner a heads up.
So I just, as I've read through this, one of the, because again, the unusual thing here is that no work was started. It says that presume that any work or authorization that's not consistent with or especially authorized by the order of conditions, 1440921, shall require the filing of a new notice of intent. However, in this circumstance, what we're really seeing is that um, that that order of conditions is nullified in essence by our signing the certificate of completion, and that it should be, if we're going to have any notification for deed language, that it should just note that any work um, on the lot will require a new notice of intent. Is that correct?
Well, this is the standard language that the commission reviewed and approved, and I've used in the past, even when there's a closing out COC. So if the commission wanted to change or tighten the language, that's certainly in your purview. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the language we've been using for like the past probably 4 years, even in this type of situation. And again, if someone was to do a title exam, they'd see that that old order of conditions had received a COC.
So the old order of conditions did not have this wording in it, and that sounds like it was more of an oversight, or are we?
No, our standard order of conditions
Mm-hmm,
requires that when a land is transferred,
mm-hmm,
that there's specific deed language that needs to be approved under the new deed with language as approved by the commission.
mm-hmm,
And the language in my report is the standard language the commission approved in
mm-hmm.
this situation.
Okay, so thank you. So Paul, basically, this is I don't know if you've had council take a look at it, but this virtually any deed out in the last 10 years on something that has a wetland on it and has had an order of conditions has this on there, and it's never been, it may look I won't say scary, but unusual to you as not being that familiar with it. But on a legal basis, it doesn't state anything that's not already obvious. What we've encountered, this came about because what we've encountered is that very often people have bought property that had wetlands on it, proceeded to do work on the wetlands without permission, and then found themselves having much greater costs associated with that and potential penalties because of that. So it basically protects both you on a liability basis, but also the new buyer can't say they didn't know. In terms of the chain of title, we have a number of deeds that have gone out that and on record that have exactly this wording there. So it shouldn't be a concern. Now, the question I have is, was it your attorney who was pushing for the certificate of completion prior to closing on this?
The buyer's attorney wanted it closed out.
Okay. Because the irony there is that uh, if they want to do the same thing, because there's really only one location for the driveway on that property,
Correct.
then they would have to go ahead and reinstitute and refile for a new notice of intent, as opposed to using this one, upon agreeing that no work has been done. Was that discussed?
Yeah, so they're represented by very good law firms, and
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones requesting that they wanted this removed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so I'm reacting to that request.
Mm-hmm. So Just give me a moment to just review the wording here.
Great, thank you, John.
And also, I will note that the commission has approved and issued COCs and then asked for when the actual transfer takes place, the deed can be submitted then. We don't need this deed language before we issue the COC. It can be a follow-up step.
So you're saying we could issue this, but that we want to review. Well, when we've done that, we've issued the COC, but we've held it in hand until we see the wording. Isn't that typically what we do?
That's typically what we have done. We have had a couple situations where there's been pressure to close quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as long as there's an agreement that it will be coming, then that was sufficient for the commission.
So I'm just trying to follow this through on a logical basis here. If they're looking to close tomorrow, for example, or by Friday, then a promise, then basically we would need to see the wording on this to know that it's going to be in the deed in order to protect the things that you've just described here.
Did you saw that Marty put her hand up?
I
Yeah.
did not.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
Marty's hands up.
Yep. Hey, Marty.
Hi, John. Thank you. Just a couple of questions. We were under the assumption when the listing broker told us that the only thing that needed to be done was, and they hadn't taken care of it early on with the Branalys, was that the order of conditions for the driveway needed to be released. And our buyers really didn't care about the driveway, and they were fine with doing that and eliminating the driveway. And they understood that if they were to move forward at some point years from now, that they would have to reapply for doing it. So that was my first question. But the second question is, why weren't these conditions on the deed when the Branalys bought it, when it transferred from David Mom to the Branalys? And why are our buyers now having to deal with this? We did talk with our attorney earlier today, and it now means that there are new title conditions, that he's going to have to redo the quitclaim deed and would have to revise and re-execute it. So again, it's a delay in time. We were all hoping to close on this a while ago, and now the earliest seems to be sometime next week, but even that seems in jeopardy. So I guess that was my question. Why wasn't this on the deed when the Branalys bought it, and why are we having to deal with it now?
So that's the question, the first question I posed, which was the order of conditions for this made reference to this being required for deed out, but didn't have this wording on that deed out because what I'm trying to get the sense from Janet is it didn't have that wording on there because no work had been started.
Well, it appears when the land was sold to the Branalys, no one thought to request a COC, which would have triggered the requirement of the deed language. Otherwise, we have no knowledge when land sells or transfers. Usually, how we learn about it is the closing attorneys say, oh, the title's clouded, we need a COC. So apparently that didn't happen. And so no one looked at the order of conditions, apparently, to see this.
So it would seem to me that in the future, regardless, since we don't know if somebody's going to sell the land before they start work, that there should be some clearer reference in the order conditions that says that maybe a shorter version of this, but that any deed out requires the following wording in order to maintain the existing order of conditions. Does that make sense?
Well, I guess we can put it on our to-do list if the commission wants to look at the standard order of conditions language. I think it's very clear.
Well, I think I actually, from what I'm hearing, we had an option of putting this in the order of conditions, and I'm not, can you help me out? Just precisely what does the order of conditions say relative um, to deed language?
All right, I'll have to grab that file. Just hold on.
Okay. So, Paul, we're just as we're going through this because it's clearly something that it's a it's an interesting chain of events that we don't normally encounter. The clause has come about due to people not recognizing that they've bought property that has wetlands before.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to get that sorted out. To Martha's concern, that's what computers are for. An attorney who has to, they can cut and paste this right into something. It does nothing except explain the not so obvious relative to the property.
Yeah.
But in terms of title and so forth, with full disclosure and things, the buyers should be aware that there's a wetland issue at the front of the lot. And they would know that because there was an order of conditions that was recorded. I understand the concern that it may not have been clear in your original deed. And my question is to try to figure out what our obligations are based on that.
I appreciate you taking the time.
So, John, let me read this
Okay.
language. This order shall apply to all successors in control and successors in interest of the property described in the notice of intent and accompanying plans. These obligations shall be expressed as covenants in all deeds to succeeding owners of portions of the property, and the applicant and any successor thereto shall, as a further condition of the issuance of a certificate of compliance, provide the commission with evidence in such form satisfactory to the commission that the provisions of this paragraph have been fully satisfied.
Okay. So that seems to me, Paul, that regardless of the attorney's purview, they missed something. It kind of spells it out and says this is what you're supposed to do. The fact that they missed it is not, we can't hold everyone's hand. And especially at $800 an hour or whatnot. I think that clarifies that this was supposed to have been in your deed, or not necessarily. There's a case to be made. It should have been in your deed. Certainly, in this current deed, it's a matter of course, and that closing out the order conditions with certificate of compliance does not affect this. This basically is supposed to go into perpetuity from deed to deed, so that we just had somebody who, for four deed turnovers in 20 years, everything was outlined, and then they bought it. And the attorney who did up their deed decided they didn't want to go through that paperwork, and they abolished a whole series of easements. And then those people ended up cutting down a whole bunch of things that they would have known about if it had been in the deed the way it had been historically. So that's where the genesis of this had come out. So I think what we're looking at this point is, as Janet just read the actual wording, this
Yeah.
seems to have been an oversight.
Could I point out just one other thing? And I
Sure.
don't know the
Yeah.
answer to, just right at the signatures, it says this order is valid for 3 years.
Uh-huh. Correct.
I'm not reading through the whole thing, but if the certificate of compliance or the order of conditions is a 3-year thing, if that had just expired.
Which is a question I brought up right from the very beginning, which is, if the new buyers buy this and want to do something within the next 2 years or whenever that thing is, they can keep this in place, and nothing happens. If we give you a certificate of completion on it now, then that's the end of it, and they'll have to reapply even if they want to start building in 6 months for it. So the question I had, and I'm in the development business, was if the intention is to use that space to, access the lot, the work's already done for them. And so I was, that's up to between them and their attorneys, but there's really no negative to leaving that there because it doesn't require you to do anything. If work had already started, then it might, but it's
Yeah.
just sitting there. So as it is, and regardless, even if you keep it, the deed out, according to the wording that Janet just read out loud, still requires this information to be in the new deed out. Um, and all that would do is, and the attorney already knows that there is an order of conditions, which spells out, it's kind of duplicative, but it spells out exactly these types of things anyway. And I'm not waving at you, I'm just looking at my other computer screen, so excuse me for that. But so that's where we're at. And Martha, is that clear? Marty?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, John. I mean, I understand it. It just changes the terms of our offer and the agreement that was made. And I think this took all of us by surprise because, as I said to you earlier, we just thought we were getting rid of the order of conditions for the
Mhm.
driveway because they have no intention on doing anything with it. But now this is going to delay it further. And I
So
mean,
you're saying the new people are buying a lot and with the idea of just, keeping it for conservation purposes? There's no intent to ever.
probably most likely there has been no talk about developing it.
And are they in a butter or anything to this land or?
No, they're not.
So all this basically, this is the closure and the notification for anybody in perpetuity that there was at one point an order of conditions on the property. And as I mentioned before, it just lets people know what's going on there. And it seems to me from what I'm hearing is the new buyers were aware of the wetlands that are on the property.
Yes, they were. Yep,
Okay.
they're
So
fully.
this really shouldn't, this really, it's a little bit, they can cut and paste from this document, but as Janet mentioned there, it was addressed. It sounds like the attorneys may not have paid attention to it in terms of the requirement for any deed out. And in this case, I agree with Janet on this. I also will agree with Janet that we can vote on this tonight to and try to arrange for the paperwork has been readied to arrange for 3 additional commissioners to sign that by tomorrow. I think commissioners, are there going to see a show of hands of 3 people who might be able to get down there tomorrow? 1, 2, oh, okay, so there we go. Okay, so
Assuming there's not a foot of snow.
right. I think is that tomorrow or the day
Sunday.
after?
That's
Not,
yeah.
they're between 2 and 4. They said there could be snow.
Oh, okay, so
Oh, all right.
it's
Yes,
ready. It'll be ready in the morning.
I can get down there.
Okay, great. Thank you, folks. So there we go. So we'll go ahead and do that. The deed out should incorporate this wording. If they want to change any of that wording, they can contact Janet, but we don't know exactly what Janet's schedule is. But the purpose is clear in all the documents that we've had leading to this. So I will entertain a motion to, well, do you want to still proceed with the certificate of completion, Paul?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to grant the certificate of compliance request.
Move to issue a certificate of compliance for 5 Pagan Lane, order number 1440921.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Tim,
Aye.
Anna, Sarah,
Aye.
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay.
Aye. Saga.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Jeez.
It's
You're
okay.
way down on my screen. I'm sorry.
I'm on the top of my screen.
I know, you're on the top of my
As you,
screen
as
too.
you should be, but okay, great. Thank you very much. And just contact Deb on that and have your attorney send over the deed language.
Great. Thank you very
Okay.
much, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you all.
Okay, next we have Old Farm Road Water Trust, notice of intent, 144940, a continuance. Janet, fill us in here, please.
So we opened the hearing at our last meeting on December 17th. You'll recall that Old Farm Water Trust is seeking to connect to Aquarian's water main from Walpole Street. They have levels of PFAS in their water, and they think the right thing to do is to hook up with Aquarian water. A portion of it already comes into Old Farm, but there's a good stretch that will need to be connected. We're involved because this involves a crossing, a wetland stream crossing. The stream is culverted, and the challenge is how best to connect the two separate water mains over, under, or through the culvert. So the alternatives were evaluated. Steve Olson here, representing the client, discussed a number of options with Kevin McCabe. The complicating factor is that this is a deteriorating culvert that the town knows will need to be replaced in the near future, and they don't want this new water main to interfere with the town's ability to replace that culvert. So the challenge was, how to now connect the two mains, but still give some flexibility for a culvert replacement. So the hearing, we did not have a DEP number at the last hearing. There was some confusion about where the hard copy of the NOI went, but we do now have a number. And we just recently got comments from DEP. Those were sent out in my report. And I think we should discuss those comments. And again, DEP comments are meant to inform the commission in their decision, but there's nothing binding about the comments. And DEP, whether we follow their comments or choose to make a different decision, DEP understands that the commission is the most informed body to make this kind of decision. So it's my understanding that Steve talked to DPW Director Kevin McCabe, and I also sent him DEP's comments, and he came back fairly strongly saying that DEP will only allow the water main to go under the culvert, which is the current alternative option number one that was presented at the last meeting. Is that correct, Steve?
What is your question, Janet?
That your recommendation and Kevin McCabe's was option one, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And DEP seemed to have some concerns about that. But Kevin McCabe came back. He's a professional engineer. He talked to Steve Olson, who's also a professional engineer. Their sense is that given the scenario before us, that they are recommending option one, which would allow the water main to go under the culvert, not over it. And that they would be cutting the culvert to go under it. And Kevin was comfortable with that pending a further inspection and a legal agreement with Aquarian, that Aquarian would take on should there be any additional cost to the town because of how the water main's being installed, any changes to the water main would be at the expense of Aquarian. So I believe those were the only outstanding issues. Kevin also wanted to include some paving specifications and also requiring DPW inspections before any backfilling of the new water main. So those are all conditions that we can put in the permit. But this is all new information that I just received yesterday. So I have not been able to revise the conditions to reflect Kevin's comments. So I would recommend that perhaps Steve address DEP's comments if he has any additional ones, but that we then, because this is a fairly complicated situation, not so much from a wetlands point of view, but from an engineering point of view, and we want to make sure our permit reflects all information that DPW wants. And also, we do want, I believe he's working with town council on this legal agreement between Aquarian and the town. And so we'd want to see that legal agreement completed. So my suggestion is that that maybe Steve can once again just go over option one, what's being proposed, and that you approve this with revised conditions at the next meeting.
Okay, Steve, do you have any comments or questions concerning the DEP response?
Sure. I can go over DP's concerns, but I want to put out that as Janet mentioned, the commission is more knowledgeable about this project than DP. Old Farm Road Water Trust did not have the opportunity to discuss the project with DP, so they don't know the background of the project and some of the other nuances about the project. So I think I tried to call the DP person who made the comments. She is out this week on a personal health matter, family matter, so she's not reachable, and I can certainly understand that. So, but I'm confident that a phone call or a quick meeting would describing the project and the technical aspects of construction would allay her comments and say, okay, yeah, option one is indeed probably the best technical option to proceed with. And cutting through and replacing a small section of culvert is a very well precedented means of construction. I've seen dozens and dozens of this type of construction technique. This is obviously a culvert that's carrying a perennial stream, emphasis on perennial. The project work is planned to be in the summer where there's low to no flow. So the need or requirement to redirect flow or to bypass the flow is very low. And there'll be the standards for compaction testing, attaching and reattaching the piece of culvert pipe, and then paving above everything. This new thing about legal agreement, you might recall at the last meeting, the town wanted a letter from Aquarion, and that letter was received. It basically says, yes, indeed, if the town does replace the culvert in the future, Aquarion will pay for that, the pipe, moving the pipe again, right? And in the design, we included 2 fire hydrants to enable temporary connections to make that possible, right? So this legal agreement, a legal document, that's fairly new. I just heard of it, I think Tuesday when I did an email correspondence with Kevin McCabe. So I wasn't aware that was
Steve, if I could interject, please. So Chris Verney here from Old Farm Road Water Trust, and on this legal topic that just came across our desk the other day, let me just add that as a reminder to the committee that we have negotiated and have a bound agreement with Aquarian, and the nature of our agreement is a title transfer agreement. So it's an asset transfer. So what that means is, come 2028, the interconnection that we're going to build along with the distribution system that already exists on Old Farm Road, title will pass to Aquarium. So irrespective of what they promised to do, which is great that they've done, willing to do that, that only really matters between now and 2028. Because after 2028, they will be the owner of this distribution system, and they will, by law, be responsible for anything afterwards. Old Farm Road Water Trust has no further bearings or actions on that water distribution system.
So Chris, thank you. My reading on this was that it looks like it's an evolving situation, but that the legal paperwork they're looking for is more about handling any damage to the culvert, during construction as opposed to the water system itself, unless you've seen a draft of or anything like that. But it seems that, am I correct, Janet or Stephen? Go ahead, Steve.
I can just add that, so Old Farm Water Trust is going to have a contract with a contractor to do the work. That contract has numerous provisions basically that say you break it, you fix it. So, and there'll be bonding and insurance for that work.
Well, that's exactly what I was just going to ask. If there's a, I would assume in your line of work, you do bonds for virtually everything when you're doing things of that sort. Do we know, Janet or Steve, was this culvert in the list of culverts that the highway department was looking to fast track, or was that something that it's just come up because you need to cut through it to put the water line in? Does anyone know?
It's my understanding that it is on the list as a capital improvement project. I don't think it's at the highest priority.
Okay.
So I think it was a couple years out.
I see.
And
I believe that is correct, Janet, from my understanding as well.
Okay. So, and then Stephen, are you looking at do you do things like this with a slip joint, or you squeeze in another bell end, or how do you do that?
So the trench for the water main is going to be 4 feet wide. So when you come to the culvert, let me, can I share my screen? That might be helpful.
Go ahead.
All right, and the share screen is, there we go.
And what's the diameter of the current culvert?
12 inches.
Okay.
I sent the request to share my screen. I guess I'm waiting for.
Oh, let me see if let me take a look here. No, you should be able to do. I'm going to take it off and then do it again, and you should be. Let's see. Yep. Go ahead. Will it allow you to do it?
Okay. All right. This is.
Good.
Do you see the screen here with my moving
Yep.
mouse?
Yep. We have it.
A section of the road. So we're looking. So this is the new water main. It's underneath. So here's the culvert going left to right. All right, the 12-inch culvert. So as we're going heading towards the culvert, we don't know where the bell and spigot, the bell are going to be, right? So if it's right there, we'll cut that out. So we don't want to be too close to a bell, so the width could vary, but basically we want to cut the bell out and then cut a new piece of pipe, exactly this, put the water main in, compact the water main, then cut a new piece of pipe the exact length, and then put fern cones on each side and tighten it up so that it's sound. So that's basically the standard procedure. Slip lining it with some that decreases the diameter, so that decreases the carrying capacity of the pipe. So since nobody knows if it's correctly sized, we don't want to reduce the carrying capacity. That's why we're proposing the new section will be the same size.
Okay. So for audience members, if you will, the bell end is, if you've seen concrete pipes, they have one end that's wider than the other, and they basically fit together as a series of pipes, one after the other. The fern coat that Stephen mentioned is basically a giant rubber metal gasket that goes around it and is secured so that it doesn't move. Question, so DEP's concern is, what if something goes awry here? And what do if you go ahead and you do that and part of the culvert that you cut into falls apart because it's friable or something, Is that how you read that as well, Stephen?
I don't read that into DEP's comments. That could be a concern, but um, on both ends of the culvert, there are sections that are exposed, and the
Hmm.
culvert exposed does not look friable. There's been some, I think on one end there's a dent from a stone or something, but yeah, the concrete, the aggregate, it looks solid. I
Hmm.
suspect it's going to be easy to saw cut a section out and then
Hmm.
put a new piece in.
No, I
The
was thinking
work
that
for
given what you said with Eve, he doesn't really know about this. You do, and I think that they voiced that as their concern that they're basically what could go wrong, and so you're saying this is appears to be in solid condition and so forth. Um, the I'm
and
just what I'm wondering, and let me know if this is worthwhile. I think the cutting out component is done all the time and and you're doing this in the summer. You'll have very little, even though it's perennial, you'll have minor water. I don't know if we'd be looking at a dewatering plan of some form. When you're doing that, certainly if we have a wet spring or summer, it might be required. Did you have a sheet on that for in your proposal?
we have specifications for dewatering plan if
Mhm.
necessary.
Okay.
But again, the
And then
plan is to do the work in the summer.
Okay. So one other thing is, if things were to go south, opening up the rest of the road to put in a new culvert, um, is not a killer cost there, but it's might require a little bit more paperwork. Is that something you've encountered before?
Not with a culvert pipe. No,
Mhm.
actually only with a corrugated metal culvert pipe. I think
Right.
once we had more replacement than we were thinking, or a stone culvert with field stone. We've had that kind of tumble, because that's
Hmm.
hard to,
Hmm.
it's
Right.
flat, right?
And
But a
if
concrete
something
culvert like
catastrophic
this,
were if something catastrophic were to happen, there's the ability of sliding a 10-inch polyethylene pipe through there to still allow drainage to happen while you're looking for plan B.
we could slip line it for sure. Yes. Yep.
Okay. So, Janet, does that it those are some of the options that would be available that would address what DEP is looking at. Uh, is there any additional information you would need? And obviously, that's something that could be outlined as a narrative by Olson Engineering. Is there anything else there that uh, you feel that we would need to address relative to DEP's questions, or any additional questions that we may have?
I don't think so. I think so. I'd recommend that Steve, you prepare a memo to DEP outlining your responses to their concerns. The other piece of information they don't realize is that the culvert is due to be replaced. So they were looking at it, oh, this is, a permanent culvert and you could be destabilizing it by cutting through it. If you can let them know the town plans to, I would think that it would be within about 5 years that the culvert would be replaced. So that could minimize any destabilization or impact on the resources. Um, so I think that would be helpful to be part of the record. I will follow up with Kevin McCabe about this legal agreement that he wants to see with Aquarian, and let him know our time frame. Um, I'm not sure how long he thinks that's going to take or exactly what, but I think that since he's addressed that concern, we should have that also completed before we approve.
And Stephen, just a quick thing, just one option, and this is strictly up to your company, your clients, and so forth. If this is a midterm proposal from the town to do something with that culvert, um, as you do your own cost analysis and timing and so forth, if you discuss with the highway department whether to for what could be relatively short money, enter into a cost sharing situation so that you work with the town to take care of the culvert at the same time you do this, then there may be zero issues, relative to that. Um,
I think, I think that physically replacing the pipe is easy and not very costly. It's getting the answer to how big should that pipe be that
Mhm.
takes time.
Yep.
And, right, so if,
Yep.
so that's the chicken and the egg, right? So
Right.
yes, something happened and someone said, hey, can you just replace the 12-inch with a 12-inch? That's fairly easy. How long do we,
Mhm.
how long and at what, we know the depth, right? So
Mhm.
same,
Mhm.
same diameter, nothing changes, the carrying capacity of the pipe. So
Mhm.
that could be, I think, worked, that would be a cost, well, just to have a contractor there, that would be a cost savings for the town to just hire that contractor since he's already there. It'd be, you'd save on the mobilization and all kinds of things, but I'd have to, Chris, who's on at the meeting, would have to weigh in on that whole thing.
Mhm.
What I wanted to mention, I had my hand up, was to address one of Janet's comments. She mentioned writing a memo to DEP, and I guess I'm currently not in favor of that. I mean, I could send her an email. I tried to make, call her on the phone, but as Janet mentioned, um, responding to DEP's comments is not a requirement. If you
Mhm.
need a record of something, I can put, responding to specifically DP. Um, I think as long as there's meeting minutes, our comments to DP's comments are recorded in this meeting, right? On what, addressing their concerns. So
Why
we
not
need
do
to,
this? I don't disagree with you there. I think Janet, with her précis early on was DEP is telling us this. Um, why not do that narrative in writing to us that just incorporates what we've had in the meeting there? That way, if DEP comes back to us, we have that. But I think you're not. Um, I think that's a reasonable worldview to think that we've received what DEP had concerns about. We're addressing them as a in-town body. So, mhm. Does that make sense,
yes.
Steve? Okay, great. Then, um, so Janet, what are you saying at this point? Do you want to hold off on this because we really don't have all uh, the contingency plans and addressing some of Kevin McBride's concerns. Hold off for more communication with DPW there.
Yes, so I think
Mhm.
with Steve, if he can address that memo, the memo addressing DEP concerns to the commission, that would be good.
Mhm.
And then also I will follow up to find out exactly what Kevin is looking for and the time frame for this legal agreement.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, if I may, I just, looking at the comments on email between Steve and Kevin, I think it's pretty clear what he's looking for, right? The comment from Steve Olson to Kevin McCabe is that, you know, there, Steve was referencing that Aquarian has agreed to replace the water main in the future if it interferes with a new culvert pipe. There's nothing to do about destabilization or failure of the culvert or anything like that. To your point, we're responsible through our contractor, who will ultimately be responsible through indemnification to us in the agreement, right? So like involving Aquarian on this point is not even related to what Kevin is talking about. Kevin's response back to Steve was very simple. He says, legal is drafting an agreement for Aquarian to confirm their commitment. That is the commitment to move the pipe, or if something needs to be changed with our pipe with respect to the culvert replacement in the future, which if we're going underneath the culvert, chances are there's going to be nothing to do.
Yeah, but basically it's part of the wording here that may not have been direct with Kevin there, but that we've sussed out here is that uh, the assumption that everything goes by plan, we should have some contingencies in writing in place there. And that's what we were just discussing with Steven. So you can figure out who gets them. Eventually, it's your contractor, but the contractor needs those documents to be in place, and we would want to see them as well. So DEP's concern about dewatering is a very normal, concern there. And so just to have something that points to something that we, as contractors, we deal with dewatering, and this is how we typically deal with it, depending on the flow and the season of the year. And that's really but that needs to be addressed. The other aspect would be if we start to cut into the pipe and it breaks into pieces, that's another contingency, and we will address that by doing the things that we just asked Stephen to put into the narrative, such as sliding in a temporary pipe that will still allow for a flow to go across the road while they have to expand their excavation or things of that sort. So I think those are normal parts of scope of work when you're doing something that has multiple owners involved there. So I think that's the direct thing that we're looking at. Kevin McBride may be looking at something relative to Aquarian sometime in the future when they go ahead to do that pipe, but that's a different issue. And
That's exactly right, and that's what I wanted to point out. I certainly understand the commission's, wanting us to have a contingency plan in place, and that will go into the scope of work that we'll put in place for the RFP with the contractors. That's pretty straightforward. We're happy to prepare that, short memo, and we'll get that before this committee.
And I think we've encountered that, unfortunately, with people, with contractors who they may have been a low bidder, whatever, but they just assume, oh, we'll take care of it. And then it happens and they have nothing on site to actually take care of it. So we just want to make sure that things are thought out and people are prepared for contingencies there.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure we're not in a position, because I don't think it's appropriate to have the commission take action on this NOI until and unless putting a legal agreement in place with Aquarian.
Sure.
I know firsthand, that takes an inordinate amount of time.
Yeah, fortunately, we're in January. We know not much is, you can't do anything for the next few months regardless. So this is the perfect time to get this sort of stuff straightened away.
Yeah, I understand, but let me be very clear here. Like, having personally negotiated the agreement that I did with Aquarian took in the order of 9 months, and I'm an attorney. So I just, this is a large organization that you very well know, and and it's not even related to what the task at hand is.
No, and that's why, and we're addressing the task at hand, not so much so. Stephen, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to mention a couple things. You just mentioned it's January and we have plenty of time. So it is January. The design plans and specifications, the bid package is ready, pending the order of conditions. So the order of conditions is going to be in there so that the contractor is beholden to those, right? And we want to, the plan was to, get this package bid in January or December, actually, because right now in the winter is when contractors are getting their work lined up for the spring, right? And so the first projects that are out on the street get the best prices. So the longer you wait, people get booked up and they throw a big number at it. So, there is an incentive to the applicant to get this bid, and we don't want to bid it without an order of conditions, right? Because that's, we want to get that locked into their contract. All right, so that's just one thing about time. The other thing I want to mention is we mentioned contingencies, and this project has evolved, and it's kind of a moving target. All right, and so contingencies can be a very broad thing, right? And we've mentioned two things, right? If the pipe breaks or if you have water, so the contract has language in it about making sure you have a spare pump, you have spare parts, you have extra things, right? So I don't want to have a memo that has a couple of contingencies and then the next meeting say, well, what about this event? So normally, we would say in engineering, in so many words, if it breaks, it'll get fixed. And it'll get fixed with best practices and legally. So it's more of a broad method of how you address contingencies, not identifying 1, 2, or 3 contingencies, because then I won't identify the fourth that might happen, right? So this whole thing about contingencies, I prefer to say if something happens beyond what we're planning for construction, the contractor will address it and fix it based on best practices in a legal manner. So I just
So
don't want
I
to.
appreciate that, and I don't see them as mutually opposed to what we asked for. We addressed the DEP concerns with a water plan and a broken pipe plan. And then the rest of the verbiage that you just outlined that you would have in a standard contract still applies. That way, we're all covered. We can, turn to DEP and say that we address those, and we have a memo on hand, and that will be incorporated into your other general contingency. So I don't see that as being a major hangup, and I'm not looking at, as you said, it's simple. You're slicing open the ground, putting a pipe in, so I understand that. So I hope you understand. We've addressed what DEP requested. You came up with, we both came up with, proper contingencies, and then other ones are typical boilerplate. And you'll be bonded, or your contractor will be bonded, aquarium will be bonded, that to be able to do that in case it is. But there's not much else to go wrong beyond that.
Yeah. And just to confirm, the two contingencies you want documented specifically are if the culvert pipe breaks beyond what it was anticipated, and if we have to dewater the trench. Is that, do I
Correct.
have that right?
Hmm.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And part of the DEP concern was, so how do you maintain the drainage flow if you have a broken pipe and lots of and you have, and that's where we talked about sliding a smaller pipe through, or whatever options you come up with there, to avoid that. Pumps, or it sounds like was something you already have in mind. It really depends on the flow of the stream there. So I think just incorporate what we discussed into your memo to us, and then and likewise with in addition to your general contingency contract language with your contractor. Okay, so we're not here to micromanage this, but we haven't had experience with contractors not being prepared before. So okay, any other questions concerning this? So I just want to be clear. So what we're continuing this for the next meeting is to get feedback from the DPW, potential legal wording. Is there anything else that we're looking for? Janet?
Just the memo as we've outlined from Steve.
Okay, so I think we're pretty close there, Steve. Go ahead.
I
Steve.
think yes. We're also looking for discussion or a ruling or recommendation or vote on the request for waivers.
Right, which we vote on that at the same time we vote for approval.
Okay.
Okay, then
And
if you could just send the email off to Deb requesting continuance to the next meeting. And Chris?
yes, and there was a third point raised in Janet's memo. I just want to make sure we're clear on all the technicalities before this next meeting, and that had to do with the NOI form signatures by the property owner. I just want to make sure we're clear. We're of the opinion that we've already taken care of that. The town has signed the NOI, and they're the only property owner that's involved here. But I want to make sure we're clear with Janet that there's nothing further that we haven't done already, which somehow is still a lingering topic.
Right, so on
Go
the
ahead.
site plan, I believe it's 5 Old Farm. It looks like there was some potential clearing along the bank on their property, just off the road. And I think I had asked about that, and I wasn't clear what the response was. So you don't expect any kind of disturbance or even temporary alteration on 5 Old Farm adjacent to the stream?
No, no, the water main is going to be in the roadway, the limits
Okay.
of the roadway, right away. Yeah.
Okay. And is there a right of way that goes off the asphalt there?
Yeah, most right of ways are a little bit wider than the actual edge of
Oh,
pavement.
no, most are. In Dover, sometimes the right of way is actually still in the asphalt. So it's
Okay.
always good to check. Yeah, so it's always good to check. So, okay. Any other questions, Janet?
Nope. Oh, and
No?
Stephen, I did look at your waivers and I recommend approval of the waivers. So that should just be a formality at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, folks, and we'll see you at our next meeting. So, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have a notice of intent for septic testing with a stream crossing at 0 Farm Street. Janet, why don't you fill us in? Is that the property that was next to the high school, or where is that?
Yes, that's right. So it's called Zero Farm. It's does not have a formal street address, but
Mhm.
it's adjacent to 131 Farm. So this is a 36-acre parcel. It's currently undeveloped. I did talk to the assessor's office today. It's classified as undevelopable for a number of reasons, including site conditions, which are extremely wet. It's 30 acres of the land are under Mass Chapter 61, which is a forestry program which prohibits development without a right of first refusal to the town. And I have to do a little more research on Chapter 61 to see if it also prohibits any exploratory work on any land under Chapter 61. There's also a portion of it is also, let me get my notes here. Let's see, a portion of the site is mapped as priority habitat area 1057 on the National Heritage and Endangered Species habitat map. And that area, the NOI indicates that the exploratory testing pits are outside that area, but that area was not mapped. So that's one area. That was one follow-up issue. The larger issue is this is a very extensive wetland system. And so to determine the wetland delineation at this point, I don't think is a good idea, especially we're expecting another foot of snow or so. Our wetland delineation regulation states that all delineations will be done between April 1st and December 1st, unless a waiver is provided. No waiver has been requested with this NOI. So again, it's for test pits, but by approving test pits that require a stream crossing and BVW alteration, you are almost de facto approving a project in this area by approving a delineation and testing only in an area that requires alteration. There are several acres, some of it has already been disturbed in the front of the property. If this was to be developed for a single family home, I would think the commission would want to see evidence that all test pits have been explored that don't require any alteration before approving test pits in areas that do require alteration. So my suggestion would be to have, I know Chris from Goddard is here. He can present and talk about the project. My suggestion would be that we have this delineation reviewed by our third-party reviewer once weather conditions allow. And I do, so while I have the floor, we do have a number of waiver requests for, even though it's temporary disturbance, there is disturbance within the 50-foot structure, which is a temporary crossing in the 70-foot. We don't have waiver requests for those. And I think that was the majority of my comments. So the waiver requests, identification of the priority habitat area should be on the site map. And it would be good to have the representative at least disclose what their anticipated plans are for the parcel, so that we have a heads up on that. And those are my comments.
Okay. So just to clarify, oh, I see. I'm on Mass Mapper and I had to move it a little bit more to see the lot that's taken out in the middle there. Okay. So, let's see, where does, Goddard, there you go, Chris. So is that clear what Janet's looking for there?
Yep, absolutely. No, we read Janet's regulatory review and we've digested it. I think, I'm more than happy to discuss all of those items
Mhm.
with the commission. We've kind of already started kicking around some ideas relative to those things amongst ourselves. But I suppose, for the record, my name is Chris Frateroli. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. Tom Carlson and Henry Richardson, I believe, from the applicant are online, and I'm not sure if Rob Truax made it online. He had another hearing tonight he was going to try and jump over from. But I think Janet hit the high points. I'll give you my brief spiel to kind of take it from the top. We did get DEP file number, let's see, 1440939 with no technical comments issued. There's kind of one main BVW system. It's kind of a Y shape, comes down from the northwest and northeast corners and kind of merges in the south central portion of the site and then flows off site kind of behind the high school there. We did delineate it in the summer this past year, July, August. And I think an important thing to note here is that we did outline an access path for machine crossing along an existing cart path. So in my opinion, it's about as unimpactful of a crossing as you could hope for in terms of what's already on site. It's at least an 8 or so foot wide path all the way from the front across the wetland. The actual portion of the wetland itself appears to have long been used as a crossing. This was farmland historically. And there's actually that section of the stream right there has some, probably fist to softball size stone laid in it to kind of fill in the stream, so to speak, while still allowing for flow through it. So I think that that existing cart path really serves well to limit any disturbance here. We're also proposing to kind of lay silt socks across that portion as sort of cushioning, if you will, for that crossing. And as we kind of described in the NOI narrative, the intent is, because there's really no vegetation to remove, other than some maybe knee-high shrubbery or a volunteer white pine or two, the intent is to simply seed and rake out any disturbance that may be caused. As far as a couple of Janet's comments, we're happy to add the priority habitat polygon to the plans. It is well outside of that. Let's see, what else was there? As far as test pits in the front and the back, the intent is to also do test pits in the front of the site as well. But that area is well outside of any buffer zone, so it wasn't necessarily depicted on the plans, that location. We that at any point and not require the commission's authorization to do so. So really what we're talking about is, yes, test pits both in the front of the site as well as in a substantial upland portion across the wetlands in the back. As far as big picture development plans, we don't have big picture development plans at this point. We're really just trying to understand what might be done with the lot. And I think the other item was probably the Chapter 61 land. We understand that, that carries certain restrictions with it. I believe that expires in 2027. So at the very least, if we were to not recertify or to pull out of that early, this would still be work that we could do Obviously, we're hoping to do it as soon as reasonably possible, but could be done in a year or so at the latest. So I think that that's kind of what I will add to the discussion here. I'm happy to pull up a plan or site photos or anything if we'd like, but I turn it over to the commission for any questions, comments.
Okay, thanks. I actually think I remember going through your package. I think a plan and photos would be helpful.
Yeah, sure thing. Let's see if I can share real quick. All right, can we see the site plan here?
We do now. Yep.
Beautiful. Oh, Farm Street up here. I believe this is 134 Farm, and the high school is immediately to the south. There's kind of a historically cleared field or meadow up at the front. So this is open. You can see the tree line here. There is a path that comes in off the back of that field area that we're showing here. And there's kind of a crisscross of old cart paths and whatnot throughout the site. The clear path kind of shoots straight down and actually clips the edge of the wetland here a little bit. But there's a spur to that trail that is less well defined in terms of, rutting out of the path itself, but is equally clear that bends off, kind of keeps further away from the wetland itself and further out of the buffer zone. And then it kind of connects back down here. So note, obviously, our stream crossing and wetland crossing are at the narrowest portion of the wetland, presumably because that was the easiest place to cross before there were any wetland rules in place. And then this small section of the stream here is where we cross, and it continues off-site, or sorry, not off-site, but beyond the wetland, outside of the buffer zone on the other side. And then we're showing our testing area. There's a nice high spot up here that, obviously we're hopeful has quality soils well outside of the buffer zone. And then let's see, I do have a couple of photos I can share with you all. I gave this, kind of a rough markup. This is kind of looking, I suppose, from here across the wetland in this direction. It would be our access path. This blue dashed line is roughly the wetland line. Again, kind of sketched in a little bit from memory and a little bit from maybe spotting one flag in the photo. So you can see, obviously, about as clear of an access path as one could reasonably hope for on a forested site.
And then the proposed
sorry,
the proposed equipment going in there, is this a backhoe or a mini excavator? What are we looking at for?
Yeah, we're looking at like a rubber track mini X.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is actually the point of the stream crossing itself. So I kind of tried to trace the stream here in these pink lines. You can see a couple of stream flags here. These pink flags being the banks of the stream. And if you look closely, you can see a couple more out here in the distance. You can kind of make out the stream channel. There's no water in it at this point in the year. But you can also see some of that stone, and it's kind of filled in just with organic material here. So while we did flag the stream as continuing through this portion, it's really, again, about as clean of a crossing as one could reasonably hope for, being that it's already kind of filled in this area. And then again, you can see a wetland flag or two over here. BVW line is roughly where this blue dashed line is. So that's a couple photos of the crossing itself. As I've said, I was kind of encouraged when I first saw this because it's good access and much less impactful than some other temporary crossings that I've been a part of elsewhere.
And
so,
did you have a photo of a close-up photo of some of the stone? I'm trying to remember if I saw that.
Sorry, this is another one kind of just looking from the other direction.
Yeah.
This might be the best photo I have on hand, but it's kind of just filled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of just filled with stone like this, and it's accumulated plenty of organic matter over time.
And so
and
what are you
kind of filled in.
proposing to put across that?
So because there's really no drop here, in terms of a bank, a traditional bank, we're proposing to lay sections of silt sock across it, kind of like this in detail form, sort of to act as cushioning. It's a easily transportable and, low effort, low impact way to protect the area here.
And that wouldn't get chewed up and then create additional organics going downstream?
I don't believe so. I mean, it would be the type of thing that really just gets tracked over once on the way in, once on the way out. They may get beat up a little bit, but we'd be more than happy to clean them up as needed.
Okay. Anna, you had your hand up?
Yeah, this is really thorough. Thanks for putting it together. I am uncertain, though, just in general, about a stream crossing, even if it's temporary, in an area where I don't feel like we've done any delineations anytime recently, and I sort of suspect the wetlands have drifted from what Mass Mapper has. Is that practical? Is that something we could look at? Just because, to me, the photos look pretty marshy, and if we're doing test pits back there, I don't know how much wetlands we'd be disturbing.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely. The wetlands on site are certainly more expansive than Mass Mapper shows them as.
Yeah.
And, we did delineate them fresh just 6 months ago or so. It is pretty marshy in the center here. You're correct in that. But, as we kind of go off the backside, I don't see maybe some contour lines. We're a good 10 feet in elevation higher back here than we are kind of at the wetland line. So I don't think there's, I don't have a concern, and I've been up here. I don't have a concern with this being marshy or soupy as you get beyond, immediately adjacent to the wetland. And then, sorry, there was a second part of your question that I may have jumped over.
I'm not sure how much, what is the square footage that we're disturbing? I
Right.
can see it's a narrow track, which is good, but I don't quite know more
and
specific than that.
I had that number somewhere, and I apologize. I don't
Okay.
have it offhand, but I can scroll up. We've got about 18 linear feet of temporary bank alteration and about 505 square feet of temporary BVW alteration.
Okay. Thank you.
And do you have the wetland delineation you did? Is that part of your submission?
Yes, it is indeed. Let's see. Here's our delineation report. Outlines the flag series, what we're looking at for buffer zones, some same photos, some additional photos, some soil samples, data sheets, and all that good stuff.
Oh, so you do have all the data sheets as well?
Yep. So we did delineate the entire site. I know that survey at this point, I'm not sure. I believe they've located everything, but the plan obviously doesn't show the entire site because there's another, however many 10 or 20 acres back here to the west that is really, kind of irrelevant for what we're talking about here.
And then Janet voiced the concern that if you're allowed to do this, her concern was that gives you de facto permission to proceed with other development components there. Is that something you agree with?
I'm not necessarily sure I'd agree with that. I think I get the overarching concern. But obviously this is solely for septic testing, solely for 2 or 3 days on site, tops, solely for temporary impacts. Any permanent crossings, if even feasible, would obviously have to come back to you folks for review of what would be permanent impacts at some day down the line, if that is even doable. And I understand the concern about, quote unquote, approving a wetland delineation on an entire site. I think we'd be more than happy to, just kind of look at the relevant portions for this filing and either accept a finding or an understanding or some acknowledgement that, this does not confirm the delineation on the site as a whole.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Janet?
So, just a reminder that in the past, the commission has asked applicants to test all potential test areas outside the buffer zone to determine suitability before allowing any testing within a buffer zone area. Chris mentioned they are going to be testing in the front portion. Testing does occur. Board of Health allows testing to occur throughout the winter, but no septic systems can go in until after April. My suggestion here would be to defer any further determination on this filing until they've tested outside and those areas have not met the standards, at which point we would then consider the rest, we would consider this notice of intent. But I do think it should be deferred until after April 1st for the formal delineation, and I would be hesitant to allow them to go forward without approving a delineation. So those.
The question I have is they did the delineation within the non-winter timeframe. So I'm a little unclear as to why they have to do another one.
No, they don't have.
No, we have to check it, John. We have to check it.
Mm-hmm.
Our delineation regulation states that the delineation can be done, outside the scope of April 1 through December. But our review and approval of that can only occur because we have to be on site. In this case, I'd be recommending that we'd have a third party. But again, that's only during April 1st to December 1st.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't need to go out and do another delineation, but our review would be deferred.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you're basically, I'm just trying to, get this out for general consumption. So on a large, I understand when we have a homeowner redoing the septic system and so forth, you're saying that on a large parcel of land, I'm just curious where in our regulations it says that they need to show that they can't perk in an area that doesn't cross a wetland as opposed to having the ability to perk, with our permission in areas of upland that are relatively significant beyond that. I'm just fuzzy on that sequence there.
Yeah, in this case, they need two waivers. They need a waiver for the 50-foot disturbance, and also, even though it's a temporary crossing, it is a structure in the 70-foot. One of the criteria for the commission to weigh in whether you approve the waiver is have all other alternatives been explored? And that's where this comes in, that, why are they testing in an area that requires, some alteration and disturbance when there are other options?
But their option, what if they, and obviously clearly they do, they want both options. I'm just not, I don't know if this becomes a priori, before the fact refusal. In other words, say they find perkable soils in the front and they want to cross over to see if they have perkable soils in the back. Are you saying that there's a scenario where they would not be allowed to do that?
I think that's information that would inform your decision on the waiver. So there's no prohibition, but it's part of the evaluation criteria. And so in order to have that information, they would have to test in the front outside the buffer first, and then could come back to us.
And how do we define structure within our bylaws?
Let me pull that out. Let's see.
And through the chair, if I may, I just wanted to say that you're exactly right. The hope is that there is perkable soils both in front and in back, just to understand what may be possible with the land.
So structure is defined as any building, foundation, road, driveway, wall, fence, or other man-made article placed either permanently or semi-permanently in or on the ground.
Mhm. So are you maintaining that that five wattles in a depression constitutes a structure?
I think so.
Okay, and I find that given that they're not even semi-permanent, I find that might be a little bit of a stretch. Um, uh, so I don't want I understand the concern about development and things of that sort, but we also have you know property rights and things like that that to be
There
cognizant
there
of.
really is proposed alteration within 50 feet of the wetland. So
So
that,
when
My
they
concern as well.
when they come out when they pull out their um I can see some track marks which probably existed during the farmers with tractors as well, but when they pull that out and rake it out, in essence, there's nothing permanent about that based on what we saw there, depending on the time of year and so forth. Um, I just don't want us to get lost in something that we may not, that may not be really clear there, just because there may be concerns about development. That's clearly where they're trying to go here, uh, and uh, uh, and then they will have issues if they try to develop it as a development, they're beholden to the 80% maintenance of basal inches and things of that sort that would run into on other properties. So there are plenty of other things that would hold them up, and that would be over through the wetlands in its entirety, not just on a stream crossing. So I wanted to bring those out because I'm sort of feeling the lay of the land here, and yet relative to crossings that we've had before, and from the pictures that we saw, this and the machine that they're looking to bring in, this is there is no permanent effect here on that. So I, the question there is then it comes down to, it seems, Janet, you're saying it's the waiver component of things that would uh, is where you see the potential for this being hung up on, as if they haven't already done um, tests on the front, then your concern is whether or not to grant the waivers because they don't have an alternative analysis there.
that's
What we have a number of questions, and we aren't going to approve this until after we've had a chance to review the wetlands.
Yeah.
Mhm. No,
So
I absolutely I understand that,
not
but
sure that it's worth our time to
Mhm.
be
So I'm just
worrying
it
about
just
this.
following it through, just working through the logic of things. But to your point, the logic says uh, we can't review it until April, regardless. So that's really where it stands at this point. So given that, Chris, I think that is one of the things there. We really can't move forward until we have um, uh, our outside expert review this. Given all that, normally we would have, and I think I saw, yes, we have Paul McManus from Ecotech has done a number of our outside consulting components there. So I think we would be looking at him requesting um, uh, a project plan for his involvement on this. Tom, you're muted. And if you can identify yourself, please.
Okay, yes, thank you. My name is Tom Carlson, and I am a part of the Richardson family that owns this property. And at their direction, I've been leading the charge, working with Chris and with Rob. Um, Henry Richardson is also on the line here. He's listening in, but I'm the one who's really been hands-on.
Mhm.
I really appreciate the discussion we've had so far, and I appreciate Amy Moot's comment about, well, why get too far into the weeds here if we need to do a full delineation anyway. And from the property owner's perspective, I'm a little bit confused about that because the way this was presented to us was that there are two things that need to happen for us to develop the property if that turns out to be the plan. One is, or there are at least two things. One is that we would have to get uh, uh, um, a permit for a temporary crossing in order to do some testing. The next step would be the full wetland delineation. And we understood those to be two different things. And again, this is not a 2-acre parcel, it's a 36-acre parcel. And a full wetland delineation involves way more than where this crossing is. And what we settled on with Chris's help and Rob's help was the idea that we would totally map and show where the crossing is. So in effect, there's a delineation there, but not the whole wetland. And my specific question is what our next step is. Is it is the board saying we need to do a full wetlands delineation for the whole property or only as to where the crossing is?
Well, I mean, in my perspective, we at least need to see where the crossing is in order to have some opportunity to approve or not. And we can't really see it when it's under the snow and there aren't any plants growing.
Well, I think that's a reasonable question, Tom.
And you've done it looks like Chris has done much of the wetlands delineation for the rest of the property. I don't really know, but we just need to verify the wetlands delineation of the section where the crossing is going to be at a minimum.
And by having an outside expert, because this is a large parcel and we want to make sure that we do things properly for both sides, it's one thing to have photos and an engineer saying, oh, this is de minimis. But we do need our own representative to see what's actually on the ground and verify that. I think, and as Amy said, your delineation's already been done. It just has not been reviewed. And the scope of work for Paul McManus could be narrowed for the crossing component of it. Paul is online right now.
Oh, good.
I think I see he's. Hey, Paul. Hi.
I'm here.
So, if we were to request your services and the like, given what you've been listening in on here, what do you think would be your involvement in the initial scope relative to what's in front of us for the crossing?
I mean, I expect to look, it'd be a to meet out there with Chris and it would be a half a day, a half day event to go and evaluate the pertinent flags. I mean, I think as a practical matter, you'd want to go and evaluate at least much of what's shown on that plan. I don't think it's necessary to do certainly the 36 acres, but to do because you want to, they want to go and pull offsets from the wetland boundary to make sure their testing is compliant. So I think it makes sense at the same time. And frankly, once you're on site, geared up to look at 10 flags, to look at 25 is not that much harder.
And then would you also be reviewing the stream bed itself relative to what they're proposing to do in terms of what its potential possible effects would be?
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure. Again, you'd want to do that all in the same prep.
Okay. So I think, Tom, that shows you that we're not looking at a phenomenal delay. We're not looking at a phenomenal additional cost either. But it gets everyone on the same page looking at the same things, which is the way we would normally handle, anything, even, basically we pull Paul in when there are multiple factors involved. And in this case, that beyond the acreage, we do have those multiple factors there. The scope of the wetland, and as he mentioned, to make sure that the wetland is where it is, so that you don't test in areas that are not fruitful. That being said, I think with Amy's input there, which helped clarify things, I think what we're really looking at is being able to review this as discussed at the earliest component of our normal review season, which starts on April 1st. And at that point, we have time for Paul to discuss things with both our office and with Goddard about the scope of his involvement to come up with a quote on that. And then what we generally do is we get that money into an escrow account, and he invoices against that. Are there any questions concerning that route?
I guess, John, this is Paul. I guess I would just ask how and when would my scope be pinned down?
I think that would be, well, you don't need to walk the property to do that, or do you?
Right. All right. Well, why don't I take the plan, ask Janet to send that to me, and why don't I draft something up? I can run it by the commission, and if acceptable to you, then you can forward it on to the applicant.
Okay, that sounds good. And I think at that point, once you'll have the information in terms of if you need a phone call to Goddard for any clarifications there as well. So does that make sense, Tom and Chris?
That makes sense to
fine.
me. Yeah.
Sorry.
I just my only comment at this point, I guess, is that I don't want to just sit on our hands for 2 months. I want to make sure that we're able to kind of keep working through any concerns the commission may have. If you do want to see waiver requests from us, if there's concerns about testing front and back, some sequence there, I just want to make sure that we're able to continue making progress there, even if we can't necessarily review the delineation quite yet, because I think even if that wetland line moves 2 or 10 or 20 feet, the substance of what we're contemplating here really doesn't change.
Well, I think part of that is that's where we have Paul help us with some of those decisions there. And also having Paul reviewing the crossing itself, because to make sure that it is what you portray it as, which will need him to be on site based on his, and depends on what our winter's like as well. But it may be, we may be limited, relative to weather in terms of what can be done. So we've outlined what our concerns are and why we're looking to enlist Paul to review those, because he has as you're well aware, has a far-ranging amount of knowledge concerning this. And we don't want to reinvent the wheel or make things more difficult than they need to be. So I think let's see what his proposal has to say. Okay. So if at that point, if you could just, I'm sorry, Tom?
Just very briefly, we completely, totally understand that a permit for this temporary crossing is not a de facto approval of anything more. I just want to be crystal clear about that in the record. We understand that. We are just trying to learn what the resources are on this property in order to try to decide what to propose for it. And that could be anything from conservation land to house lots. And we don't know what we have. And we're trying to find out what we have.
No, and that's understandable. And I think one of the things there is we're right at the moment, what's in front of us is the crossing. And it's
Thank
not the crossing is not just the stream, but it's also the wetlands on either side of the stream.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can be messy and not as presented depending on if somebody's out there looking at them in July, it's a different animal than another time of year.
Understood.
And so we'll just focus on that. So it's not mutually exclusive with your ability to eventually get out to the backside there. In the meantime, if you do some holes outside of the wetland in the front, it gives you an idea of at least what the front does, and it's outside our jurisdiction. So that, if Chris is, wondering what to do with his time. And so, Janet?
So I just wanted to follow up. It was mentioned that the land protected under Chapter 61 expires, and I can't remember the date. Was it 2027 that was mentioned?
I believe so. I don't know. Tom, do you know that better than I do?
Yes, I can't tell you the exact date, but they're every 10 years, I think, and it was last renewed in 2017.
Okay. And there are 6 acres. The assessor indicated 6 acres are under Chapter 61. And so that's about 5 acres that are not. And where are the 5 acres in the front that are not under 61?
Correct.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a total of 11 acres under that, or?
No, that was a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
There are about 30 acres enrolled, and there are about 5 acres, 5 and change, not enrolled that are
Got it.
excluded. Yeah.
Okay. And that gives you certain tax breaks with the town? Is that how that normally works?
That's what I understand. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that if you extinguish that prior to the 10-year period, there's a schedule, there's a payment schedule that gets put into effect there.
There's a whole waterfall of consequences. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and also to clarify, so if they do come out of 61 protection and propose to sell the land, then the town does have a right of first refusal. And the entire 36 acres are currently valued at $298,000 for tax.
Good deal. I'll give you 400 and put it into conservation. So it sounds like, and then it becomes, as it was kind of alluded to, if you wait for it to go out, then you have no, that's a financial thing that the trust will have to figure out on their own there. So
I appreciate that, and I appreciate Janet's thoughts about it. It seems a little bit or a lot beyond the scope of this.
Yep. So I think it really is, it has no impact on us right at the moment. Okay, then Paul is going to put together a proposal for this. And this may not be the proposal for everything he does there, but we're dealing with the stream crossing component of it. We're, I think, requesting a continuance. You can request a continuance to Deborah saying to a date to be determined in the future, because obviously we're not going to see you back in 2 weeks there. And then we will have you at top of mind. Okay.
Excuse me, John, the the continuance should be to date and time certain.
Should it? Okay, thanks. Do we want, which we can always then continue that continuance.
Right.
Do you think 2 months would give you an idea at least of scope and and things of that nature, Paul? It's still too early for the on-site visit.
Oh no, I can get something, in a matter of days. I'll say next week. I can draft up a scope and
Okay.
proposal.
Okay, why don't you, Chris, why don't you check with Deb? I think either a second or third meeting from now.
Sure.
uh,
Yeah, I'm
on
thinking.
update, do
Yeah,
that, and then we'll probably have a very short, just update relative to the proposal and things of that nature. Okay.
sure thing. Yeah, I will. I'll check with the team and I'll follow up with them.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Chris, can I ask you to forward to me your submittal?
Yeah, sure thing. Not a problem.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Moving on, we have a driveway replacement for 6 Draper Road. Janet, why don't you fill us in?
So this is a straightforward notice of intent for a driveway replacement. No expansion of impervious surface. It's being replaced in the exact layout that it exists now. The resource areas are the outer 100 foot of a riverfront area for the perennial trout brook. And then there is BVW, but all work, the closest distance from Trout Brook is approximately 150 feet. There's also a house lot in between this property and Trout Brook. So a lot of disturbance. And again, this is really a fairly straightforward notice of intent. We do not, I just checked before the meeting, there is no DEP number assigned yet. So we cannot close the hearing, but we can certainly, Karen Skinner, who submitted the NOI, is here, so she could run through the proposal and then we could talk about any concerns.
Okie doke. Thank you, Janet. Ethan, Karen.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. John Glasser was here, was going to represent me. I just got out of my meeting, so I just jumped on. But pretty much they just want to replace the driveway in kind. They're going to pull up the material that's there and just put down a new driveway. And they're not expanding, just laying down a new driveway.
So, and no requirement for silt barrier or anything of that sort, given the distance, or I haven't seen the plan, so I don't know what.
So I believe I don't have my plan with me, but I believe we do show erosion control.
We do?
Whatever the commission prefers, we can use.
Okay.
It shows erosion control, Ken.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long is the driveway?
Hang on 1 second.
Ballpark. I don't need.
It's about 150 feet long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, commissioners, any questions on this? And why don't, in the interest of given that we're running a little behind, why don't we'll continue this, and then maybe want to, if commissioners can just, Janet, did we get copies of the plan sent to all of us?
Yes, Deb sent.
Okay. Okay, if people could just have a chance to look at that prior to the next meeting. Why don't you, if you can just request the continuance to our next meeting, and hopefully we'll have the DEP number at that point. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
See you later.
Next up, we have a RDA request for a septic system replacement at 5 Hartford Street. Janet?
So this is request for determination. The septic system has failed. This is a replacement in a slightly different location. The distance is approximately 65 feet. And it would be helpful to have the site plan pulled up on this, since I had some questions about whether the system could be shifted further away from the wetlands.
Okay.
And
who's the engineer for that?
I am, Mr. Chairman, but I don't have the ability to put that plan up. If somebody else does, that might be helpful, but.
Let me,
Sorry.
Let's see. Amy, do you have an ability, or Tim, to find that email?
I'm not seeing the emails.
I think it says something like 5 Hartford Rev or 5 Hart Rev or something. I don't have it on this computer.
I found it.
Oh.
I can share it if you give me permission.
Yep, you should have permission.
Okie dokie. Now I have to remember how to share screen.
Right. That's what happens when you don't do it all the time.
Transcript. Quick view. Someone who shares screens all the time, give me tips. Cool.
There's a share button on the bottom. It says it's green arrow with the share
the
button.
big green arrow, yeah.
The big green arrow, but then you have to hit the
the
red one after you select it on your.
Oh, there we go.
Got it.
Hey, Kay.
Oh boy, sideways.
Yeah, it all came sideways in the PDF here. So
This should be a rotate on the top there, along your top.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Great. Okay. So if you want to zoom in a little bit, Zeg, on the plot plan part of it, the left side. Okay.
Yeah, it's on the very end, so
yeah. Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah.
It's a little blurry, but
yep. Okay, so Janet, you had a question on this location.
Yes, so I had indicated there looked like there was room in the front of the property for the septic system, but John Glossa indicated, and you can, it's hard to see on here, but there's 100-foot buffer around a well, and there can be no septic system. So that eliminates the front porch. So
there's 2 wells. There's this well on the subject property, which is just when you drive in, how that driveway splits. So it's right in that crotch where the driveway splits, right there.
Okay.
And then if you see, there's a lighter one just to the right of the right side property line. Looks like there's some words over there at about the same distance back from the street. No, down in the front.
Oh, further down.
To the right. Go up with your cursor now to the right of the property line. See that little blurb up higher, little higher?
Here?
That's right there. That's the neighbor's well.
Got it.
So when you
Okay.
take those 2 wells into the plan, then there's absolutely no way in the front of this lot that a leach field can go in the front of the lot. And not to belabor this, but this has happened to me before where someone, a Board of Health agent or somebody, has asked me to move a leach field closer to the well, saying, well, you can get a variance or something, but the DEP absolutely will not approve a variance when you can meet Title V by placing the system somewhere else. So, so if you go back to where it is, the leach field, the reason it's back that far from the house is because right where the fire pit is, there's a test pit. That test pit was 15 inches deep. So this is a ledge lot. So we can't go any closer to the house. We couldn't go that much closer anyway, because we have to be 20 feet from the foundation, but we can't go any closer to the house. The reason the leach field is on the angle that it is because we want the leach field to sort of be parallel with the contour lines, because it's very difficult for the contractor, the installer, to build it when you're kind of, on one side you're digging down, 6 feet, and on the other side you're digging down 6 inches. It doesn't really work that way because we have a certain distance we have to stay above the water table. So we want to follow the contour lines. I mean, it just happens to end up kind of parallel with the building, but that's not really, doesn't have anything to do with it. We're parallel with the contour lines. The way this system works, it's going to have a new septic tank. It's going to have another tank with a pump and in a pump chamber. It's going to pump up to that leach field. That's a Presby leach field. You can see it has, I don't know, 6 or 7 pipes across that. It's in a bed of concrete sands. Unlike, say, Infiltrator or Coltex, I've never had anybody call me and tell me a Presby system that I designed has failed. Earlier this week, I had somebody call me and tell me a Coltex system that I designed failed. So these systems seem to last very long. Don't know why. They do get a lot of air in them, so they might be getting a little bit of aerobic bacteria going in there. But anyway, they last very long, and that's pretty much the story here. I did show the way that the contractor should get to the site. He needs to bring a septic tank and a pump chamber, and then he needs to, do his work to build that system. You can't really see it on this plan, but there is a compost sock. The compost sock is 60.8 feet from the nearest wetland flag. Those 2 tanks, the pump chamber and the septic tank, they're more than 72 feet from the wetland flags. So I think you are okay as far as allowing this to go forward. I don't think that there's any waivers or any additional requirements from your regulations, and there certainly isn't from the Title V regulation. Or, in fact, this has already been submitted to the Board of Health, and he has approved it. The other thing I wanted to say is, and I do want to apologize, I did dig a hole that was a little bit closer to the wetlands than 100 feet. I do have an excuse, though, because just as we started digging it, the woman to the right came out of her house and walked down, and she was very friendly, don't get me wrong, but she was kind of making a little bit of a mad face because we were near her property line. She asked me why I was digging there, and I said, well, this is where we want to put the system. And she wanted to know if I had the lot line staked, and I said, no. I said, but we've had it surveyed, and I know where all of these things are, the trees, the fire pit, and everything on the property line. She said, do you mind if you moved a little bit away from the property line? And without thinking about the wetlands, I said, no problem. And I told the excavator to move about 10 feet or more towards the wetland, not thinking about it. And that's where we dug the 3rd hole. So sorry about that. It wasn't intentional. It was just something that kind of happened in the spur of the moment. Later on, I did realize that I was probably within 100 feet, but wasn't done without, it was done kind of without some, I had forethought, but then when I got out there, I had
hindsight. Thanks for the full disclosure. Okay, so Janet, has that answered your questions?
Let's see. So John, I just wanted to confirm that the closest structure, the pump chambers, what is the distance to the wetland?
72.4 feet.
Okay. So that confirms no waivers are needed.
Okay.
And did we receive proof of a butter notification? Karen, was that submitted?
I sent it to Deb twice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have them.
Yeah.
Let's see. And 2 trees are to come out, and you're going to be putting in some plantings along the property line there on the right.
That's right. That's right. Because, and that was one of the reasons why the neighbor came out to ask about screening and this and that. We said, well, there'll be some trees planted along the property.
So
I actually think she wants to plant some trees there too, because she was asking me how far trees should be planted from the leach field. And I told her no closer than 10 feet.
Okay. So I think that addresses my issues, but I will say the majority of septic system replacement applications do come in as a notice of intent, which just gives the commission more oversight and also a certificate of compliance is requested. But I think given the fact that there's no other alternative for this, it's fine. So I would recommend approval with the 10 special conditions outlined in my report. That includes installation of signage, permanent bounds. We talked about erosion control. All disturbed lawn areas are to be reestablished and stabilized. No stockpiling of any material within the 100-foot buffer zone. There is a catch basin at the end of the drive, I believe, and so silt sacks should be installed. Any catch basins within 100 feet in the 100-foot buffer zone should be installed. And also we would like to see monthly progress reports. And then I'm not sure, John, if you've been in touch with the town engineer about the new stormwater bylaw.
I have. I talked to Mike Angieri about this site specifically.
Okay. And that's just the last condition, that they receive any permits that are required under that. So just those 10 special permits, special conditions.
And Janet, didn't we have the last time we went through an RDA? I think it might have been up on Cedar Hill or Rieger on that junction there. Didn't we had some sort of termination clause that basically get notified when they got approval by the Board of Health, just to be notified when all the work is done. I know part of that we'll get with their monthly progress reports, but I think that was something you were looking for just by not requiring an NOI. Do you recall that?
I don't recall. I'll go back and look at that.
Okay. But I think given that, and this is relatively straightforward, it's something that may address your concerns about RDA versus NOI, but I don't think is critical here given our progress report requirement. So given all that, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Move to close the hearing.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Tim?
Aye.
Saga?
Aye.
Actually, I have, let me see. John, can you take the plan down, please?
Sure.
Because I can't see the rest of the folks. Okay, Sarah?
Aye.
Okay, Amy?
Aye.
I'm an aye. I'll entertain a motion to grant approval for the actually request
Move to
determination.
issue a negative determination of applicability, approving the project with the conditions outlined in the agency.
Got it.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Tim?
Aye.
Saga?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Amy? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anna?
Aye, and I also didn't vote on closing the hearing, but I'm all for it.
I know, I noticed that, but we had the quorum, so sorry. And I had the map up in front of me, so I was searching for, and I'm an aye as well. So you're all set to go. Just we'll sign paperwork this week, and you'll communicate with Janet for pre-construction.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone on the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Okay.
Janet.
We're moving on to 21 Shafter, a enforcement order compliance update. Janet, why don't you fill us in?
So you'll recall that this was an enforcement action this past fall. There was extensive disturbance, regrading, and some disturbance within the wetland itself on this property. We required that they do a site assessment that included a wetland delineation. And so that has been, and also an existing condition site plan. And that has been submitted for our review. It also included a preliminary planting plan. And the more I think about this lot and look at the site, it's a little more complicated, I think, just because of the amount of disturbance and fill that was brought in and the fact that some wetland area, BVW, was altered. And I'd like to recommend that we have Paul as a third party take a further review at this. I think the planting plan that Karen can review with us, I think it's sparse. And I also, there was more disturbance than is being restored. My look at Google Maps looks like probably almost twice as much area was disturbed than is being restored. And so this could take a little more time and effort. And maybe Karen can walk us through her site assessment and the proposed planting plan, and then we can have further discussion.
Okay. Great. Go ahead, Karen.
So again, I just got out of a meeting, so I don't have my paperwork with me. But I did just want to mention, Janet, I thought we had some conversation that we wanted to give them the a level area in the backyard. Oh, thank you for putting that up.
Well,
I know we had some discussion about that middle area that then we were going to kind of give them some of that,
I think, but when we discussed that, we were looking at basically there had been a proposal for a patio before that. It's a previous order of condition. I think that was going to be up closer between the 50 and 70-foot line. I don't know if that had been done via Artie's office or what. But,
yeah, I'm trying to find the
I can
plans.
tell. Yeah. And this is why we need AI.
But I'm sorry, it's Sarah speaking. Didn't we at the last meeting already agree to have a third party with Paul on this? Or am I thinking of another project?
If I can.
Go ahead, Artie.
So we had a presentation on the previous meeting. We showed you the existing conditions, and we told you that because of the site conditions, we were not able to flag the new wetlands, but we were going to use the original wetlands from 2016. And at that meeting, we showed the limit of disturbance and what was done on the site. We showed you that the site was secured because we had put the erosion control barrier. And the agreement at the time was let's memorialize, have Karen prepare a site assessment narrative indicating why are we asking for this wetland line to be using the old one and because of the site conditions, so that was paperwork on the file of why we are doing what we are doing. My thinking is because of what we have done with other projects, rather than take the commission's time to go over the planting plan and stuff, maybe it's wise to set up a meeting with Paul McManus to meet at the site and kind of review the site conditions, and we will adjust the planting plan or the proposal according to Paul's recommendations. But I'm happy to go through what is being proposed if that's what the commission wants to do.
I think in light of what probably will be changes to this and the fact of where our schedule is this evening, and also the fact that at the last meeting, it was pointed out that Mass GIS seemed to show a wetland protrusion that went up in that neck of the woods there. So we know that this needs a little bit more work there. And I think the concept of having Paul involved in this, the only question I have there is what does that do in terms of during the winter? We're not worried about erosion control and the like. It's a matter of how soon Paul would be able to actually do something out there.
What we would like to do, if at all possible, our game plan was to possibly meet with Paul sooner rather than later. Obviously not next week because of the snowstorm that is coming, but hopefully if we have a stretch of good weather, maybe we can meet with Paul in early February and then come up with a proposal to you guys for the planting plan. So we can use the month of February and March to kind of pin down what we need to do for planting and stuff. And once the good weather hits, then the homeowner, Renee, is already on the call. She would like to get this thing moved forward with and implemented sooner rather than later.
Okay. So how does that sound to you, Paul? Or are you familiar with this at all? I didn't know if you've seen this at all
I
before.
am
If you've seen.
not. I
Oh,
am not.
okay.
I'm just
So basically,
just
this
looking.
is a lot that's very steep, as you can tell by Artie's plan.
Right.
And people had never had trees cut down behind it because there's a major wetland behind it. And people moved in there and had been told that there were no wetlands. Unfortunately, there were plenty of wetlands, and they cut down trees and probably brought in around at least 100 yards of fill because people had over the years never cut the trees down because the wetlands were there, and it was a backyard that wasn't very usable because of all that, and they were not aware of that. So as you're seeing with some of the pictures, it gives you an idea of what was filled in, and so yeah, I think that yeah, there we go. So if you can just that their house is the one to the left there, Artie, is that right? Keep going.
We
No.
go to the one that shows the wetlands, so that you see this
Yeah.
finger in here. This is the one
Yeah.
that you were referring to. The house
Right.
is somewhere in here. So
Right.
this is the
Yep.
wetland in question
And
that
if you
John.
scroll up to the aerial photo. Okay.
So
And
would be
then
this. This is where the house is. This is the area.
no, it's the one to the left with all the trees.
This one in here.
Yeah. And so you can see, Paul, all the trees there, the pines and so forth.
Right.
You have a chance to check Google Earth, you'll see from 20 years back, all that. Everything else beyond that, we can see the Red Cross. All that is a wetland corridor going through that has a covenant on it from the original subdivision. So does that gives you a glimmer of what's involved?
Yes. So
Okay.
I guess I should similarly put together a proposal.
Yeah. And
This is the whole lot, Paul. This is their
right. So the lot, right. So that the wetlands, see the two green lines there between those
Yes.
two? Yeah. That is the conservation I can't read that.
It's a conservation restriction
Oh, thank you. So it's an actual
that
conservation
that the
restriction.
Concom holds.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's held and it stretches across another 3 lots. It's 8 acres in total. And then the wetlands continue going up and the bump out of wetlands that Artie referred to goes up that close to the house there. So and then you could see how much of it had been disturbed from the photos there. And so it's very hard to figure out where the actual wetlands is underneath the fill. And so need a little review from historical review.
Yeah.
And
So can I ask a question, Deb? Has there been any flagging? I realize that in the alteration area, it's all beat up and you can't, but has there been flagging done on either side of the disturbed area?
okay.
No, no. There was no flagging done on the ground, Paul. It's just because of the amount of disturbance that was on the ground, it was felt that the easiest thing to do was to use the record wetland line from 2016. We're talking about 2-3 feet of fill.
No, I understand, but I just what would be nice what would be nice is if there were a current, on either side of the disturbance to actually find where the wetland boundary is. That then allows you to kind of ground truth using that 10-year-old line.
So there was a 2016 order conditions for work to be done that never was done. So that if you were to get a copy of that sent to you, that would give you an idea of
That would
where
be great.
things were. do you have
There
that,
is a
Artie?
I have it.
there's an area on the there's an area on the right-hand side of the lot that can be flagged too. There's no disturbance there, so we could look at that.
Okay, great.
But it's all pretty contained because it was hemmed in. So that 2016 plan is is going to be the most up to date one.
Okay, all right, and someone's going to send that to me, Artie?
Yeah,
Okay, send me basically whatever you have, please.
will do.
Okay,
Thank you.
and so then Paul will get together a proposal, and why don't we set let's do a time certain for say 6 weeks out. Does that work for folks? That way you can have a meeting and well, no, actually maybe 4 weeks out so that if we can review the proposal prior to that and then be able to move forward from there.
We would prefer the 4 weeks. The sooner the better. Paul,
ahead.
this is the plan that you were looking at, that you guys were looking for.
That's
So
great.
this is
Please.
this is the approved plan, or the plan from 2016.
Okay, yeah, please send that.
So that's where we got the wetland flags from. So as you can see, they limit it all the way up to here. They didn't go close to the deck, or as it's shown on GIS now. So this is the wetland line. You see how it says bordering vegetated?
Okay, and the CAD file that you showed, is that just a working plan?
No, the CAD file is an actual plan. We did take the flags from this plan, but we located on the ground the limit of disturbance and the amount of fill that was there.
Okay,
Because
so you can send that too, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'll send you both plans, and I'm going to send you the planting plan with a narrative that the site observations that Karen prepared.
So, and I think to Karen, to what you mentioned, or maybe already mentioned, so the concept of so that the other disturbance that won't happen in the future was to look at potentially flattening out that area beyond the driveway there. And you can see this proposed retaining wall, which was part of the original order of conditions that I believe had been approved. That's the area, not any farther down. And you can see, so in that case, that's hewing to what was the older 40-foot no build. So we may be looking at pulling that back 10 feet or so, or making a case for that. Does that make
I
sense?
see. Yep.
Okay. Great. Then
This is
either Karen or who's going to take the lead on communicating with the office? Is that going to be Karen or Artie?
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. Can you go ahead and request from Deb the continuance, please?
Yep.
Okay. Janet, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so I'm just concerned about trying to define any wetlands on this site now with potential significant snow cover. So I don't. I heard you, Paul, say you'd like to have the wetland delineated on either side, but
Well, I would. That was kind of a wish list. I was hoping it had already been done. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to play that by ear, and obviously we're not going to run out if we get a foot of snow this weekend.
So as I understood it, Janet, what Artie had mentioned was that once the proposal is approved, that if there's a week where we can see ground, if that would be helpful for Paul to go out and see the extent of the fill, and relative to things, it wouldn't necessarily be determinative of the wetland line, although they'd be using the previous one as a guide, but not necessarily the actual. And so that just gives them a jump on it rather than having to wait till April 1st.
I think that makes sense too.
Yeah.
And I just one other comment, John, you had mentioned it sounded like a lack of concern about erosion control in the winter. I have a different view in that I'm most afraid of erosion when we go through these freeze thaw cycles that seem so common lately.
We have installed
room.
there are two rings of erosion control barrier on the site, Paul. So we stabilize the site and we put erosion control barrier Karen and Janet met on site, so they agreed on where the erosion control barrier is put in. When we meet on site, if you feel that we have to augment that and put more, we'll be happy to do it.
Great.
Okay. No, I wasn't quite being quite that glib about it, Paul. I was aware of that, but I just didn't convey that. So, okay. So, are there any other questions concerning this location?
Hi, I'm the owner of the property, Renee Rourke. I just wanted to make a quick statement that we are, fully cooperative with you guys. We're very remorseful about this and very upset that this happened the way it did. I have two young children, and the site is obviously not safe, and we're looking to remedy this as soon as possible and move on from this. I told Karen when she came out in December that if I had known about these wetland lands behind our house that I wouldn't have purchased this house. And it's just been like a very upsetting process for myself and my family. And we're looking to do everything, that we can to cooperate with everyone on the call to get this, remedy to a place where everyone is satisfied. So thank you for your time.
No, we've picked that up loud and clear, and I hope when we initially spoke about it, we understood this wasn't anticipated, and that we really were here for education as well as bringing things back. No, we feel your concern, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll move on to our next one.
I just want to say quickly, we're doing pretty well on time, but we're not quite there. And I've had a really long couple of days, so if we could keep it moving,
well,
that'd be good.
we have enough people on if you need to bail. Did you bail at 8?
I did. I came back.
Okay, so you must have been off my screen. Okay. Next up we have 8 Hamlin's Crossing, and Paul, why don't you fill us in?
Sure. So if you recall, this is a property that had a 2003 order of conditions that required that there be a fairly substantial area that where there was understory clearing in the buffer zone and a local isolated wetland that was supposed to be allowed to naturally restore. Pretty simple, 20 plus year old order. That didn't happen. There's an extensive area of lawn. In addition, there was a couple hundred feet, I think, of paved, I'll call it sidewalk for lack of a better term, running through that back area that was not approved. Folks, new owners, I guess, or potential owners, looking to close out that order. These things have all come to light. So I see Rob Carlson from Grady Consulting. They on the call, they had submitted a plan subsequent to a site walk that I did with them. One concern that Jana had raised early on was the status of that isolated vegetated wetland. That area has in fact regularly been mowed. But I'm quite certain it was not filled. The topography is still there. The native soils are still there. So that was a very positive finding that didn't happen. So Grady has gone and put together a plan proposing removal of the asphalt, the sidewalk, again, for lack of a better word, and also some seeding to let this area naturalize. There's also a small, they call it a shed. It's a pole and canvas cover, kind of little parking area with stone underneath. That's a little bit within the proposed naturalization area. They propose to remove that, replace with topsoil and seed it. In addition, they've proposed about 20 markers with protective signs around the perimeter of this area. So I can share a plan, or Rob, if you have it handy, if you want to do that.
Yep, I could share that. Just for the record, I'm Rob Carlazon from Grady Consulting. So just pulled up here. You guys see that?
Yes, I can. So if you look, there's a large area of crosshatch that was the area proposed to be naturalized. You'll notice that on the right-hand side, there's a significant part of that at this point is in the woods, a relatively natural overstory and understory. The area in green is the area that has been mowed. You'll notice down the middle there is an access path, an easement that I think it's an equestrian easement that was excluded from the required restoration area and is proposed to continue to be open and accessible. You can see within the left-hand area, Rob, if you can point out where that isolated wetland is. Thank you. That's the local IVW area. Again, the topography is still there. The soils are natural. You can see they're mowed, but there's a lot of sedges and such trying to grow in there. And then if you can, Rob, point out the what you call the storage shed up there. Yeah, you can see that's the area that a little bit of that is within the restoration, proposed restoration area. They propose to take that out, restore the topsoil. And then the small squares, they look like typical symbol for a survey monument. Those are the perimeter monuments on the restoration area.
And those are proposed monuments?
That's correct. Rob, if you can slide your plan, you have an image of that down in the lower left, I think.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, so there's I think 19 or 20 I counted. One of in my report, one of the things that I point out is in the 2003 order conditions, there's language about making sure that the area doesn't become dominated by invasives. I did look in the woods nearby. There's not a lot of invasives there, but it is always when you simply let an area go natural, it is always a concern. So I put in my report the commission may wish to consider some sort of a long-term monitoring. At a minimum, I would recommend that if this all gets approved, that there be required a good completion report documenting everything that happened for the record. In terms of a mechanism, much of this work is within the buffer zone, and where the paths have to be removed. So they would need some sort of authorization, either in the form of an order of conditions or potentially an enforcement order allowing and requiring the restoration work.
Janet, any comments?
So I had drafted, usually we do our enforcement order sort of in 2 stages, an original enforcement order requiring a site assessment and a delineation, and then a follow-up in terms of requiring restoration based on the site conditions. But Paul really expedited the review of this because there was a closing. So it does sound to me, Paul, that there were a couple small revisions needed in the restoration plan. Is that right?
Well, I had proposed, for example, that they include include a completion report, and they did specify some seating, which I think is appropriate. And I am just looking through. I don't think I had too much else. Oh, there is, as a related issue, the 2003 order required that there be deed covenants memorializing this area. So that, because that was in the original order, I expect the commission would want to have some form of that, deed, at least a deed notice. I'm not sure exactly what the form of that would be, but that was a requirement of the original order as well.
Okay, so what I propose is that if there aren't any further comments in terms of any revisions or additional material, I will draft an enforcement order for the next meeting to memorialize all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
with deadlines and information. So I think that would be the final step here.
Okay. And do we know, did this property close?
Not yet, to my knowledge.
Okay.
I think they're waiting for the outcome of this to finalize the closing.
Okay, got it. So are they waiting for us to
Excuse me.
approve? Waiting for us to approve?
Can I? This is John Fox, a representative of Mrs. Waukee, and the property did close.
Oh, it did. Okay. Let's see. So the question there is, as we write this enforcement order, then should the name change in terms of who's responsible, or is this being handled out of escrow, or?
Yes, there's money put aside in escrow at the closing for us to still take care of this.
Okay. So
I would, excuse me, John, I would say that the obligation and the outstanding order conditions runs with the land. So I would say that it should go, the enforcement order should go to the current owner, because they acquired the obligation. How they work it out with the seller is between those two. But the obligation runs with the land.
Yeah, and that's not unusual when escrows are concerned. I'm sorry, I see you as iPhone 3, I think it is.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
John Fox.
Oh, John. So are you legal counsel, John?
No, just a representative.
Oh, okay. So does that make sense to you? You know, as if as we issue something that goes with the land, the new owner is whoever you're representing there.
No, I'm representing the seller.
Oh, the seller. Okay. So the question there is, normally we would, if you've closed and you have escrow associated with this, the name on the enforcement order would be for the new owner, with the agreement that between your parties that, you know, you're going to cover it status quo ante. Does that make sense?
If it's the rule.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, does anyone else want to have any opinion on this? I mean, Paul, you've already mentioned you agree with that.
I think we've always treated it. You buy the property, you buy the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
right. And the fact that they have a escrow, that's really outside of us. But
yes, not our business.
Okay. But as long as they maintain communication, so at that point, John, if you can, somebody can get us the new owner's information so that we can get them on the paperwork.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Is the plan as submitted approved pending the order of conditions, or pending the enforcement order?
Well, so it's what I'm hearing here is it's very close to being approved. There's a few T's and I's here that Janet Bowser, our consulting agent, and also our other consultant Paul McManus have mentioned. So once they'll just fill that out, but the general concept here is in line with what we were looking for. So you can, you know, go back to Catherine with that feedback. And we're looking at just getting everything wrapped up in writing, so that that reflects this. So it's just done in a more formal, you know, in the continuation of the formal plan here. Is that correct, Janet, in terms of what your intention was?
Yes, that sounds like the next step. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So,
John,
so yeah,
John,
we basically, yep.
Sorry, I would just say that there's outstanding question as to whether the commission wants to require any sort of monitoring.
Right.
For
I have,
this,
yeah.
Go ahead, Janet.
I will add that to the draft enforcement order, Paul, and I'll run that by you before the next meeting.
Okay.
And John Fox, for you, just for your information, the monitoring is just where somebody comes out for a specific period of time. Given that most of this is conservation ground mix, it's pretty pretty minor enforcement, pretty minor review, just to make sure that it's being that it's growing as it was supposed to, and that if any parts of it die, that they just reseed it. And
Understood.
Okay, so you can convey that, and that will be outlined in that enforcement order.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the general sense, just for Catherine to know, is that yeah, we're going to move forward with this. Okay.
Very well.
Okay. Let's see. So we're left with just continue this to the next meeting, and Janet should have paperwork done up prior to that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Great. Anything else, Paul, that you want to?
I think so. This was all I was planning for tonight, so it's number
Okay.
3. So I
Okay.
think I'm done unless you tell me otherwise.
No, I just wanted to make sure. There's always those last words of wisdom, so I didn't want to miss anything. So, okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay, actually, so Paul, are you involved at 90 Claybrook?
Yes, but that was continued, I thought.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Or is it, is that continued, Deb?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that because they all say continued, so I didn't know that this one was okay. Great. Then we're done with our public hearing component this evening, and next is on to discussion and votes. So let's see. Janet, you submitted some information regarding the FY27 budget submittal.
I did. So, as I had mentioned, this year the warrant committee is being much more proactive, and I know one of our warrant committee liaisons, Gavin Koo, was on earlier. So we did submit the forms. You saw those at our December 3rd meeting and you approved those. That included the increase for my consulting services. But we do need to submit a document, a narrative, in order to justify that. So I had sent a draft out again before the December 3rd meeting. And I've revised that and I did send that out to everyone on the 19th. Again, this would be background information for both the town administrator, board of selectmen, and the warrant committee, outlining our justification and need for the increase in our operating budget. We will be, all town departments are being requested, no matter how small your budget is, to make a formal presentation to the warrant committee. That will be coming up at some point in February. That has not yet been scheduled. So the first thing to discuss is the draft memo I had sent out, justifying the increase in our operating request. And I don't know if people had any revisions or comments. We should really try to get this in by Friday. So people have a chance. So the warrant committee and Mike Blanchard's going to the warrant committee early next week.
So what was your the latest version of your the latest update on this breakdown that you sent out?
The latest version I sent out on the 19th.
Okay, the 19th of
No,
Yeah.
actually, you sent out a revision today, Janet.
That was something different.
I thought that was the budget.
No.
That was also related to the budget, but that was with regard to additional questions that the warrant committee wants.
Oh, sorry. I don't mean to confuse
so
everything.
additional to what you've mentioned, just now. Okay, let me
Yeah,
let me
there are a
go
lot
back.
of moving pieces right now with the budget. And it's too bad Gavin isn't on now because we really do need a little direction
Okay.
on a number of these things. But the first and probably the most critical, time critical right now is this narrative outlining a justification for our budget increase.
Okay. Which we had discussed it when we passed this. I'm just pulling up your the document from the 19th. Okey-doke.
And what I hope is clear in this is that we are requesting a level service budget. We're asking for an increase, but that increase is a reflection of our actual expenses. Which I went back to FY24. And I think the last couple of years we've thought that my expenses, were going up. Maybe one year was a fluke. Maybe things are going to go back down and be more normal. But that has not been the case. And
No.
I'd say
No.
mainly because
Right.
of, the last couple of meetings, half of our meetings are enforcement now.
Right. And I've always said, well, never mind. It doesn't matter. We're going forward.
Right. So
Right.
so I just wanted to make sure our math was correct. So just at the very beginning, before I scroll down a little bit and past that, but you mentioned that what we're submitting is $22,255 more than last year's budget.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see.
That's what yeah, that's why. And then you're mentioning that we're increasing your budget by 32,000. So I didn't know if we're dropping 10,000 somewhere or what we.
That's a good catch. So that number's wrong. I'm missing a zero.
Oh, it's 220,000?
Yeah.
No,
That's our full budget. And mind you, I usually don't with our budget, so this is kind of new for me. But let me get that actual number.
Janet, it's Cam here, and I might just add that I think you might be better to frame it as a level budget, but you are now incorporating what was previously charged as services for the reviews and so on separately. Now it's all part of the same thing. So the overarching message should be you're doing a level budget. I think that's probably one that would be more welcomely received than one saying, "Oh, well, but we're adding things into it."
And I think that's that's instructive. So I think part of it is so you're showing FY 2024 a $47,000 transfer on top of the approved $88,000 budget. So we're looking at 135, and what we're looking at is requesting 120 as opposed to the 135. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to get my file on this.
Oh, okay. So
But so Cam, it's always been a thing for me where I've always been like, and again, I'm fairly new, even though only 9 years into this, but and again with the whole warrant thing, I've always been like, why can't we just why can't we request what we need and say this is what the Concom needs? And it's always
you most definitely can do that.
I mean, now we can, but it's always been, we were always taking from A to B to to make.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was Janet outlined it pretty clearly, which was that we're eternal optimists. We kept thinking each time it was an aberration, and this year we realized that it wasn't.
No,
so,
exactly. Right, exactly. But
yeah,
we're all in agreement. We're all in agreement. But at the same time, I've always been instead of stealing from Peter to pay for Paul, why don't we just say what we need?
And I think that's exactly what you should be doing there, Sarah. And I think that's why I was encouraging you to just incorporate it all together. It just makes for more transparency.
Right.
And we can, and then with the questions that we may get from the warrant committee, those are the answers.
Right.
You know, we can just say, yeah. So I think
we can stand up in the town, the open meeting and say, this is what we've been dealing with.
Yeah, this is where, yeah. So we're so, and then we have the other things as Janet outlined there, and we've voiced I think more vocally, which is that we're just as you pointed out tonight, we're dealing much more with more enforcement. We have more sophisticated filings. There, we can absolutely justify without having to jump through hoops as to why our workload is different. So Janet, I don't know if you so I'm seeing all that. The only thing and I can talk to you offline about this is relative to what if we want to submit that I don't know how many pages we have, 5 pages, or if we need to get this cut down a little bit, or if or for the warrant committee submission as opposed to our public discussion, this gives them everything they need to see exactly what's going on. And we can distill that a little bit more when we speak, when we speak publicly to it. Does that make sense?
I think it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and Cam's on, so he can vouch for us.
Yep. So right, he's been on late enough to to see what's going on. So
I should apologize for not having my visage up there moving, but for some reason my camera is refusing to do it. So that's why I'm sitting in the background.
In some ways, it's better. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Not for you. No, I don't mean that. I meant that. Look,
Too late.
I can't get myself out of that one.
No, it's just there. So Janet, do you have a chance to revise those numbers?
Yes. So our total operating budget request is I was missing a $227,255. That's our total request.
Great, and that's what we had voted on, if I recall. Whoops, now let me find this again.
And Cam, could you repeat your suggestion? I'm not sure I got it all. I want to make sure.
I think I was mainly trying to make the point that it's more or less a presentation point, that you are really submitting a level service budget, but you're now incorporating what had previously been charged back to various departments as part of the Concom's budget, rather than every year sort of having to move money around to cover things. And I think it just makes it more transparent. That's really the only point I was making. I don't think you need to make any changes to the numbers themselves, but when you're presenting them to the warrant committee, you really should present it as a level service budget. Yeah.
Well, it's actually both. It's because but I think the idea of leading with the level funding component, which I think was your initial recommendation.
That's right.
Yeah, which is to say, it looks like we're asking for more, but for the last 3 years, we've actually been getting more at the end of the quarter. So this is a true run rate, and we're bringing this to everyone's attention for full disclosure.
Right.
So so I'm prepared to do that when we have to go forward publicly there. I am just looking for my there it is. I have different formats, PDFs and Word documents of what the budget amount is. There we go. Okay. So okay, so then I'm just going through the Word document. Tell you what, Janet, we can go over this tomorrow. At some point, will you have time to just touch base on the Word document? I think we can cover that pretty quickly. To change that or can you change that number and resubmit it under the FY27 budget request, and then it probably makes sense for us to touch base tomorrow.
Okay.
This you're saying this is they're looking for this for Friday?
Well, no, but the sooner the better.
Yeah, because I'm okay with getting it in early next week to make sure it's really accurate, and Friday they're not here anyway. So we have a little bit of flexibility there depending on your schedule. So, okay. So that deals with the update for the documentation and the budget submittal. And then we can fine tune it tomorrow. Do we want to move on to land management work group, or is there anything else you want to discuss on that, Janet?
Yes, I actually sent the email I sent out today was a follow-up to the warrant committee's budget guidance letter.
Mm-hmm.
There were about 8 different bullets that they wanted in our budget submittal, the numbers themselves, and we included those. But there were 3 other items that they wanted submitted in writing. And those were, I outlined those in my email. The first was, are there any unmet community needs that the commission feels should be funded if the town could afford them? Like what?
Which was this the document that was just incorporated in the body of your email, or is this a Word or a PDF document?
This was just in my email.
Okay, so it has with the highlights.
Yes.
Okay, so so level service. So I'm going down by paragraphs there, and what you just mentioned there. Where's that mentioned?
So this was something I sent out today, John.
Mm-hmm.
And in the body of my email, I highlighted 3 pieces of information that we'll need to submit, before we meet. And these were all taken from the warrant committee guidance document.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then you have in red, chair and commissioners will need to complete this.
Yes.
And so forth. Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at that.
Okay.
And that's very helpful to let people see that. And
So the first budget is, boy, if you could have unlimited funds, what do you think you should be doing? What are the community needs that aren't met? And then the other 2 are the bad news, which is if you had to cut your budget, if you had to cut it so it's level funded, meaning like the 197,000 from last year.
Mm-hmm.
If we had to have a level funded budget, what would we cut?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next,
So I think first to go would be commissioner salaries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Excuse me.
the annual retreat in Barbados, right?
Right. Okay.
This question is, if you had to cut your budget by 3% next year, what would you cut?
And when's our time frame for this?
I think they had wanted this with our regular submission, which was due back in December, but no one from Warrant has come and said, I mean, we're such a small budget, honestly. We're just a nit stack.
No, I think these are reasonable questions. We got a whole bunch of stuff, as all departments did, thrown at us at the end of last year. On top of onboarding, Deb as well. So I want to, we've submitted numbers. I want to submit accurate numbers. But I think these are things that commissioners should review and take to heart. And I think they can submit as general emails to Deb that we will be able to review just for, if people have ideas or questions.
It seems like the first email came back or was starting off in November 13th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So at the same time we were working on onboarding, budget, and OpenGov application stuff.
And also just doing, the regular
So
stuff.
we want to be able to get this in by, if we can get it in a week or 10 days, I think that that will be helpful. And as long as we can then defend it or discuss it at if there's a February, I don't know if it's February is the public hearing date for these sorts of things. yeah, so that's the way I'd like to deal with this. And I think if people review these three items and if they have any thoughts, especially I like the thoughts of what we could do that are better, but at the same time, it's tough for us to figure out how to cut things. But it's worth reviewing and seeing if we can share some ideas.
Some quick math is that the 3% of our budget is significantly less than the taxes that one average house pays.
I'm said that it's significantly less than what?
It's significantly less than the tax bill for one house.
Oh, true. Yeah.
The average for one average house.
Mm-hmm. So then that must
Tiny.
be, and if we had 2,000 separate budget items, we'd be okay. That's the number of houses. But
Right.
so anyway, that's is that clear to folks? So let me know if it's not. But the idea to give some thought to this and then to send emails to Deb, because we're not supposed to send them to each other directly, but you can CC everybody, and then we'd be ready for discussion at the next meeting. But if we have anything that becomes a clear concept, we can maybe submit something prior to the next meeting.
John, given that the warrant committee is going to ask you to come and present your budget, I think you will definitely need to have these points available for that meeting. So that should be the final deadline for this stuff.
Right, but then what is that meeting? That's what because I mentioned that earlier about discussing among ourselves, but then giving them a heads up prior to that meeting. But I'm not sure when that meeting is. Do you know?
They haven't scheduled those with all the smaller boards yet, but it's sometime in February. I think mid-February.
So that ties in with my concern about trying to have some concepts on this dispersed among ourselves in the next 10 days so that we can we have some answers for this and then be able to submit that. It looks like it will tie in very nicely for our next meeting. Will still be before we're scheduled for the warrant committee, so we could even vote on some of this. Does that seem to fall in line with the dates that we're talking about?
Yeah, our next meeting is February 11th, so I think that reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. So
and then the bullet, they do want I think it's Chris Costello, and he's been out a bit. But
came back today, I guess.
Oh, okay. So they're putting together a template. They want all boards to present similar information when they come to the warrant committee, and they're supposed to get a template out to us, but that will need to be a PowerPoint presentation. So I don't know if anyone on the commission is really good at PowerPoint and might want to take that on once we get that template.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be long. It might be like 10 slides.
Oh, maybe we can play with Gemini. Okay, then that's dependent upon the template we see. So okay. Then let's take a look. Okay, are we covered for what we have to do for budget? Is there anything else before we move on to Anna?
No, I think that's it. Sure.
Okay, great. Can you take that? Thank you. Okay, Anna's still here. Lucky for us. So
yeah, I made it.
Any updates?
Well, actually, yeah, speaking of budgets, we're really excited about doing the town-wide overall prioritization project. We really want to bring on Bill to review the open space plan, review the plans we have done, and look at what are our good next moves so we don't waste money surveying stuff we're not going to get to right away, or pick I don't know, parcels that are important to get done, but not the most important to get done. So Janet sent around a proposal that we all looked at and approved and voted on at our last meeting on Friday. Did everyone get a chance to see that? Do you want me to share my screen?
Sure, go ahead and share it.
Okay. So we want to do this with this year's land management budget. So we're already funded for it.
Mm-hmm.
The general concept is to do a conservation land specific inventory of the things we've looked at, the things we haven't looked at, and kind of come up with a system for how we're going to go about coming up with plans and doing maintenance on those plans. We've done some, that's great. We've got our open space plan, which is probably going to be the guiding document. But we're still thinking that before we bite off something as big as Wildwoods, which feels like the obvious next step, we really ought to take some time to step back and figure out what is the best choice. So here we are. Yeah, Amy.
You
So
have
we're looking at
611 acres.
Yeah, so that's
now
hard to do.
now that you've gotten all those bits and bobs transferred to us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
I have the wrong. Where's our wrong number?
It's at the first line. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah. So 611.
Oh, yeah.
611.
Yeah. So
we need 29.
This is why we need to
square
someone to come
mile.
through.
So the cost here, you're looking at $25,000 for the consultant to review everything, or for what? I'm not clear on what that's done and where that comes from, because I don't think we have a $25,000 budget for land management, do we?
We've got
for professional management.
We've got 35 or 40. So we're estimating that 20, that's trails and land management together. We're thinking to combine those. We don't have a lot of lumber we're planning on buying in the next 6 months. We do have a lot of budget, and we believe we've already subtracted out the planned maintenance on this fiscal year. So it's most of our budget, but we're hoping that lets us be more efficient next year.
So mowing and things of that nature is pulled out of the 35, or?
Yeah.
So,
I can grab the number somewhere.
Okay.
Someone gonna jump in?
Well, so we don't need to make a determination tonight on this. So, as far as I know, so I think it's just good for us to have these in front of us, to give the thought there. But go ahead and continue in terms of the scope. You're dealing with the scope and timeline.
I will say, Bill indicated that he has some other projects, and if we can't get started on this, we're already pushing it, being able to complete this by the end of the fiscal year. So there is urgency here.
Well, I don't know, given things that we've already, so you're saying, Anna, that based on things that we've already bought within this fiscal year, and that we'll have spring mowings and so forth, that we would still have $25,000 available for this current fiscal year?
Yeah. And our estimates were pretty high, like $5,000 for benches, just in case we could think of literally anything else. So we're feeling pretty good.
Did you put that together? Is that part of this, or is that a separate document, or?
That's a separate thing. I think, I don't know if I've shared that. Sure.
Okay.
But folks have concerns. Do we want to take a different approach? Should we change the scope? Should we scale back the money? I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think part of it, well, it's interesting. So I just had a thing, I just went out and visited a homeowner who had a conservation tree, and it was a large tree that was on conservation land that fell onto their property. And I think we're going to encounter that a little bit more frequently. And so the question there is, I need to speak to the highway department, because it happened right after one of the storms. So the highway department was booked solid. But I just think we should be taking a look at some of the the more mundane types of things that we may, which may or may not incur our cost, but just to get an idea of that.
Sure.
For me, this is the first time I'm seeing this, unfortunately. It's a big jump based on what we've done for land management consulting before. And yeah, my first thought is, whether to focus on particular things as opposed to a global thing. And is this 25,000 a global look at do a pass through of all our land and probably focus on a few, or I'm not sure what this embodies.
So I'm happy to answer that.
Yeah.
So we actually did spend up to, I think it was 26,000 on the Springdale Meadows Land Management Plan. That was
Mm-hmm.
out of our $40,000 budget last year. And we
Mm-hmm.
had actually had money sitting on the table that was returned to the town. So there's definitely money for this.
So we gave Bill, I thought that was $10,000. You're saying
Yeah.
Yeah, I
we
think it
gave
was a
him,
bit less, but not, it still was,
but it wasn't 25, right?
I don't think it was 25.
No. So
I don't
I
think
suppose
25 that's 2.5 times what the open space plan, which I did a lot of, but I had a consultant doing some of. I mean, it's
well, it's interesting. I was wondering, and I've been
I'm
thinking as
getting
well.
I'm getting a dozen CCR's current condition reports, which are big, thick, highly detailed copies for DLCT for 25.
For 25,000.
Yeah,
So
so I mean, we could basically do land management plans because that's basically what they are, land management plans for a dozen properties for 25,000.
So I'm just going to say I have been doing conservation land management for quite a while, and I think approaching this piecemeal, the 3 properties we have land management plans for now, we really are not doing a good job implementing those. And I think we need this plan would have someone come in, look at on a more integral they'll come up with a better plan in terms of what our costs are. We're always scrambling every year to, what does Mark need this year? How much is it? And I think we need a a property specific overview of what we are monitoring, what aren't we doing well, and that's going to help us sell our land management budget. Because I can tell you the warrant committee is taking a much closer look at all work. And if we have basically an outline of how we are approaching this, and we need land management plans maybe on 6 or 7 additional properties. We need to monitor our CRs better, but doing it piecemeal and trying to figure it out every year as we go on, I don't think it's the most constructive, effective way. And so bringing on a professional who's done a lot of these plans to help us step back a little, look very closely at each property, what properties need land management plans, what their costs would be, and how it fits into our other priorities. I just think it's necessary, and I don't think the cost is prohibitive. The Housing Task Force got 100,000 to do something very similar to this at town meeting. So I don't think the cost is prohibitive. I think the time is right to do this now. I'm not sure if we'd have time to spend this money in another way this year.
So my main concern was I didn't know we had this money left to spend. So I think partly I think what would be helpful is to see our actual spend rate over the last 5 years for each project. We can do, that should be, yeah, and gives us an idea, because one of the questions I've had, which is part of what this would involve, is
No, it's fine.
part of what we do is, in essence, for some of our land management, we mow. And the question is,
Yeah.
there's more to it than that. And we did get other land management plans, and then we haven't really looked at them. And I think it helps us focus on what is it we can do on an outreach basis, which is kind of one of those 3% questions there, of like, you mentioned the benches, but what are the things that give us bang for buck for people being able to actually enjoy them? And partly would be a land management specialist who would tell us that. And part of it is us thinking how do we, actually use the land, and maybe some way of getting feedback. And I've always thought more recently about, um, I know Amy has multiple hats, but we certain and I know she is dealing with open space with her conservation hat on sideways and stuff, but I just feel like maybe we're missing a synergy there, of
Okay.
things that we can do for both things, and that I'd want to have that, incorporated in all that. But the first thing it starts with is to see what we've actually been spending recently, and not every time we do this, we go, well, didn't we spend, and then we're not sure.
Sure.
So I think having a spreadsheet that, because it's not that many items, that we can just update on an annual basis would be really helpful. Deb has some
Yeah,
of those
yeah, we can do
numbers,
that.
but I think given it might be helpful for you to get those numbers from Deb and create something so that we get that, and then I think I know I would feel more comfortable because I found it hard to believe that we have $25,000 left.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair.
So I just want I want to be shown that that's the case, and make sure
No,
that
that's fair. That's a good point.
and we have and that we still have money left to spend on the maintenance issues. But I think this gets and that's why my initial thought is maybe to split this over a year or two, but it's I'd love to figure out what we can do better in terms of both outreach and actual management. So okay,
Sounds good.
do you want to continue through some of that? Or does that cover?
No, that sounds good. So for next time on this, I will come. I'll organize the cost of the last land management plan, what we've been spending on trails in general, so we can actually look at the spreadsheet. I'll send that around. Other things we've been talking about. We're planning to install our bog bridge in Wildwoods on January 31st. I don't believe that's going to make it into the February town newsletter. I was kind of hoping, but kind of is in the name. But folks know people, and Amy, I think Rick is going to email about seeing if he can email out to the Saturday stroll list if he hasn't already. We also have been kicking around. Okay, yeah, it's fine. We've also been kicking around the idea of maybe helping with walking the CRs the town owns. It kind of feels like it's in our purview, but kind of doesn't. And but we also thought that, like, well, who else but us?
You are supposed to be.
Okay, so great. We didn't realize.
You are the ones who would monitor the CRs.
Even for open space?
No, the land management working group.
Yeah, for our own CRs, right.
The Concom has to do their own CRs. The open space isn't going to do the CRs.
No, and I think, for example, that's a thing of not quite formalizing things, but for example, we have a CR that we need to address relative to 165 Center Street. And we want to do that nicely and so forth, but we haven't focused on it because, well, especially this last quarter, we've had so many things that we have to do. But this spring, in an even part of the winter, we can do that. And then we don't want to overwhelm you either. So maybe it's a matter of taking a look at what other things commissioners might be able to do on a assigned basis to work with each other to take up some of that slack.
Yeah.
So
be good.
I think that would be helpful for us to review. And so part of it is we're just finding out that we have CRs. Like on Schaffner Lane, we found that we have an 8-acre CR behind their house there. We had no idea. So I think that will be helpful. The first thing is to enumerate them. So
yeah. Well, if folks have a preferred first CR, ideally that's kind of friendly, that we can get a sense of how to do this.
There's only two.
Okay.
There's only two. One is the Nightingale CR, which has 2 properties.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is the Schaffner CR, and that has a bunch of properties, but it's a big ring along Truebrick.
Okay.
And it's also not.
I always say it wrong.
It's not as public, and it's not as certainly
You're
not
gonna
be
find
the-
you're gonna find lots of encroachments on
Right,
the
right.
Shatner one.
Yep. So,
Okay.
well,
I'll bring
that's
this
good
up
to
to
know.
everyone and we'll get
I
started. We're
can provide
thinking,
you with both of the CRs and their
yes, please.
plans.
Good.
And Anna,
Yep.
I can help you with the 165. I've been trying
Oh,
to,
good.
I like Amy, I wear multiple hats and I know the owners very well because the Norfolk Hunt Club uses the
Yep.
Nightingale easement. So
So I think,
Great. Yeah.
I've been trying to not be involved in that because I don't want to piss them off, but
right.
you and I can,
Okay.
But
we,
I
maybe
can be
we
annoying. It's fine.
maybe we may end up with 40 arborvitaes that we can use elsewhere. So
right, right,
we'll see how that goes.
right. But well, Anna, you and I will figure this one out.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Anything else, Anna?
I don't think so. Janet, did I forget anything?
No, I think that's it.
Okay,
Great.
excellent. Let's see. The annual report. Let's see if I find that. So that was Sega. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sega, for
And
that.
is that so? Is this goes into the town report, and it covers everything. My question, the only question I had is, do we have any constraint on us relative to length for this submission? Do you know? Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Sega.
It's not really constraints, it's more like, the report committee knowing how many pages there's going to be so that they can pass that information on to the printers, et cetera, and know, that kind of affects the cost of printing. But we always get estimates between, this number of pages and that number of pages. And I don't think, I mean, it's a little longer than has been in the past as far as I can tell. But I don't think it's going, we're not doing a 10-page report, so it's not going to affect things in a major way.
Yeah, the question I had, because I'm in terms of, as I said, it's very comprehensive. Part of it was, in terms of the audience, my concern was TLDR. If that's what it's geared there for, if it's geared towards people being able to go through stuff on the town and go, oh, that gives me a great idea of what conservation does, versus something that everybody, town management, in that function, it really tells town management what we do. My question is, does it, if is that the audience, or is the audience, residents in general? And I don't know the answer.
The audience is the residents of Dover. The purpose of the town report is for Dover residents to understand, all of the different, branches and committees and boards, and what are your schools doing? Like, everybody weighs in, and I mean, everybody weighs in. And it's like Mary, our chair, always talks about it as being the, like, document of record for the year and that sort of thing. So it is geared towards general plain language so that most people can understand what's being talked about. I mean, before I was on the report committee, I was one of those geeks who actually likes to read the town report. And so, and being a
Love to
nature
read the
girl,
town report. What makes that? I don't know.
I have either 70 or 90 paper town reports of years from like 1930 through. I inherited with the house.
That's
and
very historic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Then you're a
yeah,
super geek because
and
I throw them out.
I have read many of them. Well, the problem is I have space. Well, I have less space now, but because I haven't thrown things out. But
but they're
do
historical
they don't do
documents. That's great. I mean,
when
you should have that.
when was the last time they published one? Does anybody know?
last time they published a town report.
In paper, yeah, paper. Do they still
We
do
do
that?
it every year.
They
We
still
still
do.
publish them in
Oh, in
paper every
paper.
year.
You don't get
Oh,
one
so
in your mailbox?
no, I haven't for a number of years, unless
Yeah,
my wife
well, they
forgot.
used to deliver them. They used to mail them. This was before my time. This is only my third year on the committee. They used to mail them, but that became cost prohibitive, I think. And so it's more like if you want a copy, go see Felicia in the townhouse, go to the
Got it.
library. There's going to be some
Okay.
at the There's going to be
Oh,
some at the in
post
the
office.
community center, and I think we're trying to make a banner this year for the lawn to advertise in more areas because we
Mhm.
do advertise in like our town or whatever, but
I
sometimes people
think
read stuff, sometimes they don't. So
I
there
think
are
they
always paper copies, and I think like as far as the past couple of years, the commission report has basically been a couple pages and change in the report based on the like small format, and I don't
Right.
think this is going to be, we sort of took what Janet did and then we distilled it down a little bit more, and I if that at this point I think it's got the information in there that's needed that
Well, and
that the
you're much
average
more.
town resident can consume,
Yeah, no, it's and you have the history with the actual town report committee, so you're much closer to it than I am relative to what they are looking for and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And honestly, the report committee is looking more at style and looking at like, is this deviating very much from what we've had in the past
mhm.
based on like understanding how much needs to be fit into the town report overall, and plus like sticking in pictures and things like that. So, it's not our job to necessarily nitpick what people decide to put in their town report. We're going to
Mhm.
verify numbers to make, like, if a number looks the same from last year's report, we're going to check that and just, make sure, oh, yeah, are those the right numbers, guys? Yes. Okay, move on. And otherwise, like, it's like spell check and grammar and that sort of
Mhm.
thing. So,
No, and I think part of it was because like I said, it's very comprehensive. I think one of the other probably tasks we can look at is how we deal with our website so that we get somebody, people actually reading that and having things more in a bulleted format for particular things. And as here, we're covering a lot, even in a single paragraph. And my concern is to, for example, make it clear to people about tree cutting. And yeah, I know you cover tree cutting here, but it's embodied in a paragraph that covers a bunch of other things. So part of it is a matter of which audiences see what. And partly I'm hoping if we can find the right modality, we have fewer enforcement orders.
yeah. Well, I mean,
It's
and
pretty
always the
long, but yeah.
question is, maybe some of us enjoy reading the reports. There are other people who are never going to read the reports.
Right,
So it's kind of like
exactly.
a balance of like, how much time do you spend
Yep.
saying like, oh, these are the things we really want our residents to know, but how
Mhm.
how much time are the residents going to spend actually reading it?
Yep.
Who can
So
say? So,
no, and given your background with them and given what you discussed here, I think it's a lovely report. I don't know if there's anyone else have anything they want to either add or to that.
It was great. I really liked
Yeah,
it.
I mean, and really, thank you very much. I mean, it's a
yeah, and I'm
tremendous
and I'm
effort.
happy to, do the report writing next year as well. I can collaborate
Mhm.
with Deborah about getting the numbers and whatnot.
Mhm.
So,
So, oh, I was question. Let's see. This is this year. So, and maybe Janet can address this. 62 permit applications. Um, so does that in that they're spelled out there? What is that other than NOIs and RDAs and stuff, Janet? What are the other ones that are counted in that 62 number?
So what we've done in the past, like we broke out numbers by different types of permits and all that. And I just collapse them into like one category. So that includes COCs, RDAs.
Oh, okay, got it.
No need
Okay,
to get out. And I didn't
yes.
added any value. no one knows the difference between an NOI and an RDA. So,
Right. So no, and that makes sense when you pull in. We actually had a good year for COCs finally. No. Okay. So is this should we have a vote to move this forward for publication?
Or move to approve the town report.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Tim?
Aye.
Zega?
Aye.
Anna?
Better.
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there any other votes that need to be? I'm fading.
Yeah, there's one more
fast.
coming up. There's one
Okay.
more. I don't think we have any
Okay.
minutes to do. We have
All
one
right.
more coming up, which
Because
did
I'm
people
like,
have a chance?
I'm dying. So I
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
done.
no,
I'm done
it's-
here too.
Some of that early stuff took a little turn there, but Janet's invoice. Did people have a chance to review that? And
Yeah.
I believe so.
yeah, it was $11,000, and I don't know if I have that up directly. Does anybody have that up?
it was 11,687 and 25 cents.
Okay, which I got to be honest with you folks, given all the work Janet's been doing, I thought that was very reasonable.
Very reasonable. I agree.
I appreciate that. So I would entertain a motion to approve that.
Move to approve the December bill, January bill.
A second.
For can you in the amount? Can you outline the amount? Just so that I can...
Just looking for it.
All right. Well, Janet can do it again.
Yes,
11,000.
for
11,687 and 25 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Tim?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Sega?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
So I just,
Yeah.
so now for the bad news. My budget will be expended by the end of January. So
Well, that is bad news.
That's quick.
Bad news. So
Okay.
it's just about 10,000 left in my professional services. Now that bill won't come in until mid-February. And so it doesn't need to be paid until like late March. And we
Okay.
can extend that. But
Okay.
we will need to prepare to go to the warrant committee for a reserve fund transfer.
Okay.
I do think it will help. My recommendation is unless we have a really straightforward new enforcement, that we have Paul handle our enforcement actions for the rest of the fiscal year, because that just eats up a huge amount of my time. So would be that's one approach. And then I'm just going to try with OpenGov, that is cutting down on my need to reach out to other departments in separate emails. But so I'm going to try to be as careful as possible because, well, the warrant committee, they're going to know exactly our situation. If we,
Yeah. Well, I think
yeah.
so. I think why don't you and I can also get together to and probably and then bring in Deb as well to go over the what you think you'll need for a transfer on a realistic basis. And I think if we can do that prior to our warrant committee hearing, we have some numbers at hand just in case it comes up. And then the idea that we can also say this will be the last year that we have to do this. So,
right.
So we'll view this as a transitional year. Okay, thank you for the heads up there. Let's see. We have no meeting minutes. I think at this point, Janet's just going to update us on a few things. Sarah, if you need to sign off.
I'm going to sign
I'm
off.
going to drop as well. If no one
Anna as
minds.
well. So we still have a quota for quorum. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for your
guys.
patience. And
Bye.
your time.
Thanks.
Night.
Good night.
I'm going to leave as well, John. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ham. Good night. Okay, Janet.
The only thing that's important is this letter regarding the 43 Strawberry Hill 40B. It's kind
Yeah.
of a generic letter, but I thought it was important to at least for us to get some sense in terms of, it's not a perfect site for a development of this size.
Mhm. So what was the letter that came? Was it from Mass Housing, or what was the letter? Or just was their actual formal request, notification of what they plan to do? Is that what it is?
So there's a preliminary application, not before the ZBA yet, but
Mhm.
on our site walk and a review of the preliminary plans, Mike Blanchard asked all the town boards to submit any comments and concerns they have.
Mhm.
And then he's going to put all of those into one document and send it to Mass Housing.
Mhm.
At least it's part of the record. We're
Mhm.
on record for having some concerns.
And so so you haven't written that letter yet?
I did.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Went out
so,
yesterday.
oh, yesterday?
Yes.
Janet, I'm not really sure why, but when I receive Word documents from you, they show up in A4 paper size, the layout,
Oh, which is why it's showing up the screen the way it does now.
which
Um,
is, yeah, kind of shows up kind of narrow. So I don't know, somehow your settings seem to be defaulting to A4.
Okay. I don't,
But
I have a Mac, so everything I do is in Pages, and then I have to export to a Word.
mhm.
So I'm not
yeah, I have a Mac too, but I use Word. I don't know.
So Janet, like on my computer now, I'm seeing I have people
If you go to layout, you'll probably see that the size
oh, there we go.
is not letter. It's
Mhm.
A4.
Which
But
could be in Pages, or it could be so.
I don't know. Anyway, so sometimes I have trouble because your borders
They
the
don't wrap
PDFs
those.
don't work when I try and print them. And same with
Okay, I'll see.
So I don't know. I don't know why it's doing that, but just make sure that you have letters that you're typing you're typing on something that at least in Pages says it's on a letter,
Okay.
8.5 by
Okay.
11.
Okay.
Thanks very
Okay.
much.
So of this,
And maybe not so tiny on
what are
the
the
borders.
one of the main concerns here that you're pointing out, Janet?
The first is a need for new delineation and also a suggestion that an ANRAD be filed before the ZBA application, so don't go too far down the road with their design when they don't know they don't know what the wetlands are.
Yeah.
Um,
Did they already do that? Well, I'm sure it's beyond 3 years, but didn't they do that?
It's 5 years for an ANRAD, but it isn't it, Janet?
Oh, and ANRAD's 3 years, just
Oh,
like
it's only 3 years. Oh, good.
So didn't Artie do that? That's where we realized the fill that was done in at the back at the north side of things.
right. That was in 2018. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's beyond there. And question, does that fill have anything, any relevance to what we're looking at?
It could. It
Yeah.
could. I think that's getting into the weeds.
Okay. Okay.
But once they file with us, that certainly we have documentation.
Okay.
A question, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a recommendation that any development, some of their development is very close, within 20 feet of the wetland. And again,
Mm-hmm.
our local bylaw setbacks won't apply. But just saying, the reasons why they need to be as far away from the wetlands as possible. Of particular concern is their leaching field, which is like within 10 feet of the wetland, which Title V allows.
But does allow that?
Title V, I
Well,
can't remember the setback for Title V.
I thought it was
what
50.
about flooding? Because that stream does flood.
Well, we can ask for a review of that.
Just so you know, we could make it flood more. by
I think
being less good about keeping the culvert on the DLCT.
well, one of the things that I would like, this gives us an opportunity. I was researching, remember when Trout Brook with the this the dispersed 40B on the in Trout Brook and the other streets there, a couple of the houses were right up against the floodplain, and there's a thing called freeboard for sort of futurifying, if you will, that assumes, since we've been waiting for FEMA maps to come out, and they're it's probably not going to come out under this administration for updated maps, that are already incorporated into Massachusetts when it comes to reviewing things along the ocean, which is that regardless of what the floodplain says currently, they're adding up to 2 to 3 feet to accommodate climate change flooding. And for some of those units at Trout Brook, that would push the house too close to the street. They wouldn't be able to qualify for setbacks because the floodplain would be that much greater. So I think that that might be something to look at here, relative to where things flood. So just a thought. So continue, Janet. Hello?
Sorry about that. The others.
Oh, I didn't know. I saw people's face. I see Amy's face froze. I didn't know if it was the computer or if she'd just been intense. Oh, there we go. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
Compliance with the stormwater management standards will be required. And then also with the Mass Sustainable Development Criteria scorecard is something that a 40B project has to comply with. And that's
great.
That's it.
Yep. Okay. Oh, I didn't hear. Yeah, Janet sort of faded out there. I didn't know if that was her computer or not. Great. Thank you. So is that, again, comprehensive, pertinent? Do we have to vote for this to be submitted?
I think that would be good.
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the submission of this to Mike Blanchard.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Tim?
Aye.
Zega?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay.
And then
anything else, Janet?
Yeah, just quickly. So I didn't get to the town newsletter article. I'm going to write that over the weekend. There's an invasive management a free program by the state pollinator network on invasive management. So I thought I would just publicize that. And that's particularly for home gardeners. And then a new residence package is being put together. A couple of departments have talked, and I think Felicia is taking the lead on this. So if you're a new resident in town, there's going to be a package of information. I think it's going to be a physical. There's going to be a package. And so they've asked, what would your board like to have included? What kind of information? So no rush on that, but people could start thinking about that.
So we had pamphlets at one point.
We did.
And I don't know if and basically Lori was still sort of digging them out. Deb, have you run across, when you were revising things, those pamphlets on conservation?
It may be in the closet. It may be in the supply closet.
Okay.
Well, we might have to redo them given we've changed all the
I was thinking about the same thing.
Yeah,
But it's
also, it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Well, and because it gives us a layout that we might be able to, then get things reprinted. But
apparently Suzanne's really good at Canva. I'm not too bad, but
Suzanne is
the person who works for Chris.
Oh,
Costello.
okay. Oh, that's good to know. So the other thing, Deb and I were talking today, sorting things at Norfolk Registry of Deeds, and basically we get around 5 house sales a month in Dover. Although December there were 10 of them. and that at the beginning of each month to just pull up the sales that we have in Dover in order to send letters out. So we're on the same wavelength, relative to this. But in particular, to then compare it to Mass GIS and get maybe a little bit more directly relevant letter out to people who have wetlands on their properties, to make it clear to them that they do have them, and that shouldn't, with the right, getting it all brought up to speed, it shouldn't take that much time after we get it going there. So that sort of ties in with the new residence package as well. Again, I think the fewer enforcement actions, the better for all of us. So,
and then the last item was our continuing saga of 31 Springdale Ave. I have not heard anything on that property. We're now going on 2 years since the enforcement action. Enforcement order was issued. So I don't know if people have ideas. We could ask the owner to come in and give us an update. But this is just dragging on, and I don't know what else we can do at this point.
I've spoken to the owner, and I can say, but not for a bit. I'll speak to him again. He got hung up because Goddard was charging him a tremendous amount of money to finish things up, and so he'd made an appointment with Rob Truax and was supposed to meet with him. I don't know if that actually went through. Truax GLM he has access to their plans. I also told him about Artie, and I will contact him, and then I will report back by the next meeting. Then we'll make a decision there.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you, everyone. We had been getting used to shorter meetings. I appreciate everyone.
Is this a record?
What's that?
No.
4 hours.
Sadly, no.
Oh boy.
So, okay. Thank you much, everyone, and thanks for your time and your service. And hearing no objections, unless there are, tonight's meeting is adjourned.
Good night, all.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye.